you'll see America's favorite sport on WHBQ television.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guests.
Hello again, everybody! Randy Dandy Randy West, the vintage, classic, senior producer, cameraman, video put together, Randy Dandy Randy West is watching in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Drew's here, Thomas is here, all kinds of people here, and I get to say, as I am proudly wearing the Jonesboro High School Golden Hurricane shirt right now, yay! Open the roof, let it rain. We gave them hell, hurricane. This coming Friday, this coming Saturday, we will travel. I will travel up about 5 miles from here. I'll go up Hurricane Hill. And Friday and Saturday both, man, open the roof in Jonesboro High School because the class of 1980, that school can't hold us. A bunch of old people will be invading Jonesboro and Jonesboro High School, and I'm looking forward to that. Our class of 45, 45th year anniversary. Now, Rusty will have it in a minute. He's celebrating a big something else anniversary. We'll have him on. We will have Pat when he gets finished cleaning up dog poop, and Michael St. John will be here after I do what I've advertised I'm going to do, what I said I was going to do, and I'm going to do it right now, right here at the top of this here show. That is great because we will go back and relive memories, video, and the cards, and a lot of good stuff. The booking idea that put me on the map, Monday Night Memories and Night to Remember, video and action and cards and graphics and so much more. Now, let's see. It is 4 minutes after 7 o'clock, and what I'm going to apologize about, what I'm going to confess to you about is every single week, every week here on this show, I do this show live as live can be because I love live programming. I love it. But when you're live, there ain't no fixing to it. Now, I thought last week's show was very good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much. So, as always the case, I go back and I listen to the entire show. And the first 45 minutes, it was like I thought it was. It was great. But after the 45-minute mark, and here's my confession, I sucked. I was a shits. I was awful. I stumbled. I fumbled. If I was playing football and the ball was thrown to me, I would have dropped the dadgum ball. If I was in center field and a high fly coming at me and I had my sights on it, what would happen? I would have dropped the ball. I sucked last week. I sucked. I was bad, and I apologize for it very much. Big show, and we'll start out with Rusty Robinson coming up in just a few days. You're celebrating a big day, and I won't let the cat out of the bag. What's going on, Rusty?
I don't know how to follow that just exactly. Yellow again, everybody. This is not Lance Russell right at ringside, but this is Rusty at his home in Orange Beach. And I did not notice that you did badly or did whatever.
I sucked. Believe me. Believe me. I wouldn't come out here in front of this many people and say that I sucked last week if I didn't suck. They had to know it. You had to know it. Maybe you like me so well, you just ignoring it. But I sucked. I sucked. I sucked. How are you
Oh,
doing? First take, Rusty freaking Robinson.
hey, I'm good, and I appreciate that. We're doing well here at Chateau Robinson on the beach. Our pool is still going in. They're still telling us it will be workable by Fourth of July. And they were working on it today, so that's still our working time frame is to have it open by the 4th of July. Otherwise, we're doing good. My wife and I will be celebrating our 44th wedding anniversary this coming Friday, and we're going to go to New Orleans for that, which is about 3 hours from Orange Beach, and we'll have dinner at Vincent's Restaurant in New Orleans, which is a great old Italian place. Kind of reminds you of something out of the film The Godfather. It's the dark leather booze. Have to know somebody to get in. All of those things. So it's really cool, and we've been there many times. It's very nice.
That'll be great. Looking forward to it. Now we are certainly in Orange Beach and we'll go to the Huntsville, Alabama area, ladies and gentlemen. We will go to the Arab freaking Alabama era. Man, he has so many broadcasting and Hall of Fame awards. And of course, last year he went into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. He's our friend. He's here. I don't know if Joshua's here. I don't know if the cat's here. But ladies and gentlemen, Michael St. freaking John.
Hey, buddy. First of all, you didn't suck last week. I was part of the program. Now, you may have been off a little bit.
See, I told you. In my mind, that's sucking.
No way, no way. Have you been watching some podcasts lately? I'll tell you what's up. Well, no, I won't say it because I'm liable to get sued. But there's several out there that don't. I'm sorry, they suck. But you don't suck. You may have been off just a hair, but it was good. It was a good show. It was a good show.
I was good the first 45 minutes, but then I don't know if I was worried about graphics or I don't know what I was worried about, but I was stuttering and stammering and really not making sense, and it was just one of those things. By the way, if we knocked, I mean, we can review podcasts, so I don't think we'll be sued if somebody sucks. I think we can go out there and say they suck. I think we can, as long as we don't call them a murdering bastard. I don't think unless we have proof, I don't think we can do that, Michael.
Well, listening to some of the stuff that Jimmy Cornette says, maybe we can get away with a little. Hey, great day. First of all, Doc, good to hear from you. Is that Vincent Tomaso's place down in New Orleans? If Vincent's?
No, that's another place which is in the
okay.
fifth quarter. But Vincent's is out on St. Charles Avenue, way out in Uptown, and it's run by now Tony. Gosh, now I'm blanking on Tony's last name. But it used to be called, what did it used to be called? Campagno's maybe or something. It's been an Italian restaurant for many, many years.
Whatever happened to Pascal's Alley? Whatever happened to
Pascal's? Oh, it's still there. We had dinner at Pascal's Alley just a few weeks ago, some friends of ours, and they're still going strong. It was great. They still have the barbecued oyster. Yeah, exactly.
Barbecued oysters, yes.
Yep, and they're still terrific. So if you get a chance to come to New Orleans, I can strongly recommend Pascal's Alley as a choice for dinner.
Well, first of all, Joshua unfortunately is not here. He had a little event to go to tonight, but you know who is here and begging for food right now?
Oh, yay!
She's getting so heavy. Either that or I'm just, look at that. Say wave at everybody. Thank you.
Wave, all right.
Jazz is here.
Great. Let me throw in, Michael, a first take, and we'll get your first take in right now because it's your passion. You like it, that you have a lot of passions. So obviously the Cats your passion, and the Cincinnati Reds is your passion, and radio is your passion. Now I want to talk about something that you love, and that's baseball. The College World Series is going on right now in Omaha, and there was a spectacular game last night, and for only The third time in history of the College World Championship, the World Series of Baseball in college, there was a no-no pitch, a no-hitter pitch. We had guy ended up getting 119 outs, I think. He went the full game. And congratulations to Gage Wood. And a little interesting fact is that Gage is from Batesville, Arkansas. Now, Coach Chris Ellis is the assistant superintendent Southside of Arkansas, and Batesville and Southside are together, just right next. You don't know when you're in one out the other, and so I'm sure Chris knows this young man and the strength and conditioning coach for this young man Gage that did the no. Now his strength and conditioning, the guy that brought him up in football, was at Chris's is Chris's football coach now. So that's an interesting thing. So I'm not going to call the hog Drew Pig Suey. I'm a ASU Red Wolf for sure. I almost said Rusty ASU Indian, and it hadn't been Indians in 30 years. But that's my first take.
That was a great game. That was that great picture. There you go. Adam
There he
Dunn
is.
right on the trigger. Good.
Does that kid not look intense? By the way, he was on Pat McAfee, who obviously does wrestling commentating now. He has a major streaming show, the Pat McAfee show, and he was a guess. The kid has personality, and he looks like it right there. Doesn't that look like an intense guy, dude?
Oh, absolutely.
It looks like who's the comedian that's in all the movies that face that he's making looks like God, I'm trying to think of the comedian that that just reminds me of something that he would do or say. That guy he's an incredible pitcher, and I think he faced 28 or 29 batters. I mean, he didn't face the minimum of 27, but he had some stuff. He had some stuff yesterday.
Now, he would have had a perfect game, and he was mad at himself. He hit a batter. That was the only thing the whole game that went wrong.
It was pretty incredible. And I love baseball. In fact, in front of me right now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 games in front of the screen right now. The Reds are playing Minnesota, but that's in the background here. I had a neat experience. Can I do a first take real quick?
Yes.
I had a neat experience today. I had lunch and spent the afternoon with the head football coach of the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, Coach Charles Kelly, who was the defensive coordinator last year for Deion Sanders at Colorado, was the defensive coordinator at Auburn when they won the national championship, was the defensive coordinator at Florida State in 2011 when they won the national championship. Great guy. This is his first head coaching job. We are going to have, for the second year in a row, the Gamecocks on 107.1 WRAB 107 FM this year. We are the North Alabama affiliate, and went down and just expected to have a meeting and ended up spending 4 hours, took a tour of the facility. I know Arkansas State has made some great strides in their facility, Randy.
How about this damn Adam Dunn, man? Does he kick ass or what?
That's Coach Kelly. That's the guy we had lunch with today. When I say little guy, he and I are about the same height. He's about 5'11", 6 foot right there. But just incredible guy. And I think Jacksonville State is on the right course. And, of course, you guys have my friend, the brick guy up at Arkansas State, the former coach of the Tennessee Volunteers, Butch Jones, brick by brick. Build it brick by brick. I love that title but it was great. I had a great time today, and it was a very relaxing day, and look forward to football season. College football gets underway in 66 days.
Wow, that is
hard to believe.
Unbelievable. Football, people, it's coming now. One final, real quick, brief first take, because you weren't with us last week. Tell us about how your trip with Joshua went throwing the first pitch out last week.
Boy, I'll tell you that I don't know who had more fun, him or I. It was his mother came down and took pictures. I think I sent some of them to you guys, but he was beyond himself. I mean, he was so excited, and when he threw the ball, they introduced him, and he threw the ball, and the whole crowd reacted, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. We, as you can see, Papa and Joshua matching our Rocket City blue. That blue, that's called the Blue Haze uniform, and it's the color blue that is above the Earth's rim when you're in space and see the Earth rise. And that's one of the colors of that. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate you putting that up there. But Joshua was excited. We had a big time, and it's the last thing he said to me leaving the stadium. He said, "Papa, I like coming to this ball game, but when are we going to Cincinnati?" So he threw down the gauntlet. But anyway, great time. Thank you guys for asking. Appreciate it.
Glad you had a good time. Anything? Well, let's do it at the top of the show, and we'll do it at the end of the show. I'm excited about your podcast, The Blues Doctor Recommends, because we're playing tribute tomorrow. I'll do the plug at the beginning, and you can follow through up on it. But one of the rock and roll icons, you're doing a tribute to him tomorrow on the Blues Doctor Recommends podcast, available on YouTube. What you got going on?
Well, that is correct. We're celebrating the life and career and music of the late Brian Wilson, who just died on the 11th of June. Brian was the guiding force behind the Beach Boys from their very beginnings. The Beach Boys were, in fact, Brian plus his two brothers, plus a cousin, plus a couple of guys who lived like across the street. They grew up in suburban Southern California and started singing together, started making their music together, became very famous as a surf band, as a Southern California band, talking about surfing and cars and chasing girls and all that stuff. And then they got more sophisticated. Actually, Brian got the most sophisticated. He started creating music that was on a par with anything you could imagine. He did the album Pet Sounds, which had the song God Only Knows. And if you haven't heard that, you need to go listen to it. It's fabulous. And then probably the most famous one he did in that era was the song Good Vibrations, which is amazingly complex, but at the same time, very catchy and very, sticks with you as well. Unfortunately, Brian, there's the guys. Boy, do they look young. That's Al Hardeen and Dennis on the bottom. And then from the left, Mike Love, their cousin, Brian Wilson, and Carl Wilson there on the far right. So those guys were just amazingly talented, but Brian was the leader of the group easily. Anyway, Brian unfortunately had a lot of problems with mental health and with drug abuse, and he went through a whole series of bad times. Basically, he recovered and would have relapses and had a lot of people help him. Basically, his wife managed to save him from that, but he continued to struggle through most of his life, unfortunately. At any rate, there's a film out there called Love and Mercy, which is about a biopic, basically, as they call it, about Brian Wilson that I can strongly recommend. It had, way more details than I'm talking about here. At any rate, I was a huge fan of Brian Wilson. I'm just mystified by some of the things he did, because I can't imagine he could hear things in his head that you couldn't even write down on paper, but it would work when he would put it in the studio and would have the musicians play it. So it's just amazing. Maybe the most biggest compliment that Brian Wilson ever got was that John Lennon and Paul McCartney heard the album Pet Sounds, particularly the song God Only Knows, and looked at themselves and said, man, we're not the best anymore. This guy Brian with the Beach Boys, he's better than we are. And that prompted them to go out and work that much harder. So, that's probably the ultimate compliment to get from John Lennon and Paul McCartney, that you're the best in the world. So we're going to celebrate Brian's life and play a little of his stuff and show a lot of pictures that I've been able to find. So it should be fun.
Looking forward to it. Blues Doctors podcast, Blues Doctor recommend, we'll see that. It will upload at midnight on YouTube. And I have a Beach Boys. Michael, I want you to hear this. You're our Music Hall of Fame guy and played every hit there is throughout the years. But I want to tell you, and you'll like this story because it is involving somewhere that you like. It's involving a couple of things, three things you like. First of all, it involves Memphis, Tennessee. It involves Randy Hills. It involves the Mississippi River. It involves a lot of things. It involves Mud Island in Memphis, Tennessee. So when I was a younger guy, probably a college-age guy, I was probably drinking a little bit. I was partying a little bit. I had some girls down on the Mud Island with me having a good time. And even though the Beach Boys are obviously older than me, but I went to see the Beach Boys in concert, Mud Island in the 80s. It was a sold out crowd. And boy, Michael, you're the music guy. They had charisma, they had enthusiasm, they had energy, and ORH got drunk. That's my first take about, there we go. And if this is the picture from Mud Island, Adam's salary will triple this week. Michael knows what that means. Anyway, Michael, Adam's on the same salary you are.
That's what I figured. Yeah, yeah.
What do
I'm
you
looking
think
for that
Michael
triple
said,
too,
John?
That's an amazing picture. The one thing about the Beach Boys that I always enjoyed is they never lost their chops, and they were as entertaining later in their career as they were in the beginning of their career, and in fact probably got better on stage as time went on. And a lot of groups and a lot of musical acts, that's the reversal. They're the hot thing at first, and then they peter out, and then they lose their chops, and then goodbye. But the Beach Boys hung in there and got better and better and better. And even up until the last 4 or 5 years, people were still going to their concerts and coming away blown away by what they had just heard.
No doubt about it. And folks, this show is called Talking Memphis Wrestling, but we're friends. Rusty and I are friends. Michael and I are friends. Chris and I. Chris and Michael. Chris and Rusty. Pat's friends with all of us. We are all friends. That's why you guys are my friends. That's why I confessed and I apologized for sucking last week. And I don't think I'm sucking at all today. I just need to be a little, somebody said this, Ben said it a little later on, said something about fired up. I am better, Ben. When I'm fired up, somebody says something about fired up. That's how you do that. Now, we have different perspectives of life, of wrestling. We have different stories. Dr. Robinson is a shoot doctor, or a retired shoot doctor. That's his claim to fame. He's a musician.
I don't think you've ever been referred to as a shoot doctor before.
No, well, instead of being a work, I'd hate for a working doctor to operate on me, wouldn't you? I want Rusty, a shoot doctor, a man that educated.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, and Michael St. John is great. He has the Broadcasting Plus Hall of Fame Pro Wrestling announcing career. All that. My perspective is started out just like all of us do as a wrestling fan. I've said it before. It's America's favorite sport on WHBQ television. The first time I heard that, I was hooked for this business in life. Now, I've been hooked on other stuff in my life, drinking and tobacco and cocaine and all kinds of other stuff. Thank God I'm cured of all that stuff except for tobacco. And you guys catch me dipping tobacco throughout the show. My doctor, Dr. Robinson, sends me real hateful messages and tells me I need to quit that stuff. But I quit the other vices. All that stuff is over with. Hey, I started being the picture seller to Eddie Marlin, my favorite wrestler, and that started it all. And then I started ring announcing at 14 years old, going all over the territory, going to the Mid-South Coliseum. I became in the office. I became a part of the office. I became part of the booking crew. I became the assistant general manager, then the general manager, then the assistant booker, then the booker. From that perspective of writing the televisions, booking the television, and becoming the founder, the owner, and president of Power Pro Wrestling. Did that. I've been around. Now, what put me on the book? And we have a problem here. Problem alert. Can we need a siren. Can you do any siren, any disaster sound effect, Michael? Any disaster effect?
I don't think I have a disaster effect on here.
Okay.
I've got very few things.
It's going to be Randy, Michael, and Dr. Robinson, because Pat Trammell is watching this on YouTube right now because his computer has broke. Pat's computer has broke. Boo! And
Pat, come on up to Huntsville. I'll take you to Gigaparts. I can get you a heck of a deal, my friend. A heck of a deal.
We have one subject later on that I wanted him to talk about, but we will talk about it today. Hey, I was just getting by. Then I went away. I got mad at Jerry Jarrett. Pat he's in love with Jerry Jarrett. He thinks he does no wrong. He thinks everything. He just don't know. He wasn't around to know. Anyway, I got fed up and left in '89 when Jerry Jarrett got the job in the WWF and went to Connecticut, went away. Then I came back. Jerry Jarrett was gone, and I came back, and I became the booker. And how I came the booker is that Jerry Lawler's booking. Jeff Jarrett had left. Lawler was out a lot working for the WWF. The territory is down, and that was the last thing on Jerry Lawler's mind, and I came up with the idea. Put that picture up with Lawler coming out of the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee, as we look at Monday Night Memories. I got this idea of a reunion card. This is based on my fandom, people. This is based on my youth, my childhood. So, on March the 7th, 1994, we brought them back together again, called the event Monday Night Memories, March the 7th, 1994. The week before, it drew 700 people. This particular night, March the 7th, 1994, it drew almost $30,000 and 9,000 people with $3 general admission tickets. Let me run over Monday Night Memories card real quick. Again, the event, the idea that put me on the map. We started because Memphis was a late arriving crowd. I opened with the 6-man tag, the Nightmares, Ken Wayne, Danny Davis, partnered by Skull Von Crush against the Spellbinder, Memphis Wrestling Hall of Famer, King Cobra, former Universal Unified Heavyweight Champion King Cobra, and of course the late Jeff Gaylord that opened up the night. Second match of the night was a battle of PG-13s. Wolfie D against JC Ice, followed by the Birdman, Coco Ware against Billy Travis. Hansel, Jimmy Valiant against Tommy Wildfire Rich. The Moondogs against the gimmick team of Dr. Frank and Leatherface. Then came for a masterpiece of a match, I can tell you. 6-man tag, the King Jerry Lawler, Universal Heartthrob Austin Idol, and their partner Brian Christopher against Eddie Gilbert, Doug Gilbert, and former world champion Terry Funk. And that was a masterous tag team, 6-man tag team match. Then a 10-man elimination, best of Memphis match with Jerry Lawler, Jimmy Valiant, Brian Christopher, Austin Idol, Terry Funk, Eddie Gilbert, Doug Gilbert, Moondog Spot, Coco Ware, and Tommy Rich. 10-man elimination to become the best of Memphis, and the winner of that match was, of course, Jerry Lawler. We also had a great recognition, and we will show you that in a few minutes, of the greatest legends in Memphis wrestling history. Inducted 2 days before on television was Sam Bass. Inducted and accepted by Jerry Jarrett that night to the Hall of Fame, the late Tojo Yamamoto. In attendance, Don and Al Green, the Heavenly Bodies. Spudnik Monroe, the Diamond Ring Cadillac Man. Spudnik Monroe, inducted in the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. And the man we brought back after a 5-year absence to Memphis on March the 5th at TV, Lance Russell. He was inducted that night on the 7th to the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. Again, Rusty, do you see why that card, that idea, that event, by God, I'm not stuttering now. See, I'm talking about something I'm fired up about, I'm passionate about, I'm excited about. Do you see why that got me the job?
Man, you know, somebody talking about fired up, to quote Tommy Rich. Boy, that is terrific. You know, one of my, basically my top, or my favorite wrestlers of all time were two of those were included in that card, and that's Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk. You know, and I have met them. I met or know Terry Funk much better than Jerry Lawler, but you know, they were some of the all-time greats, and that is an amazing show to put on. You know, it was a mix of some of the younger guys. In other words, at that time in '94, PG-13 were the younger guys. They were still, you know, going. They were in their prime, basically, as opposed to some of the older guys. Terry Funk, of course, you know, went on for I don't know how many, 5 decades maybe, and thought he was in his prime, I guess. So I just thought it was a great mix of wrestlers from many different eras of Memphis wrestling. It was terrific.
How about you, Michael St. John, taking you back to March the 7th of 1994, Monday Night Memories? What did you think?
That was a great card. I'm sorry I was in California and missed it. I mean, you're right. I can see where that is just you living your dream and living your fantasy. But, you know, as you were going down that card, just about every member of the talent that was on that card could draw money. And that's the great beauty of that whole card is, yeah, you had a lot of legacy. You had a lot of different styles, different eras. But you had people on that card that were known to draw money. And I can very much see how the house popped from 700 the week before to, you know, almost 10 grand that week. That's an all-star card. That would be an all-star Memphis wrestling card without a doubt.
Now, what we're going to do, especially the introductions, the parade of legends. Now, we have a video, and it's kind of lengthy. If we can, we're going to fast forward to the Monday Night Memories video part of it, with 3 minutes and 7 seconds. It's the last video that we have posted up there, Adam. But if we can't fast forward, we'll show the video as well. But we'll go ahead and show that, and we'll come back and we'll talk about this from Monday Night Memories. Here we go. We'll start this great video.
Found a program stuck back in my drawer. It was faded, it was torn. I couldn't wait till I looked inside. Some are gone, some are still alive. I watched them every Saturday on TV. I couldn't wait till they climbed in the ring. Monday night memories are all I have to remind me of you.
Hey folks, if this don't warm your heart, nothing will.
Handsome Jimmy, he's so cool. Jimmy Hart acted like a silly fool. I watched them every Saturday on TV. I couldn't wait till they climbed in the ring. Monday night memories are all I have to remind me of you. Jackie Fargo said, "Put up your dukes." The girls thought the fabulous ones were cute.
Appreciate everybody
Sputnik
watching
Monroe,
this
Don
edition
and Al Green,
of Talking Memphis Wrestling.
the Gilberts and the Funks. I thought they were so mean. I watched them every Saturday on TV.
Missing Pat
Couldn't
Trammell
wait
here on this
till
show
they
today.
climbed in the ring. Monday night memories are all I have to remind me of you. Jerry Jarrett told Joe Yamamoto when he died, it hurt me so.
What a tag team.
Eddie Marlin, Buddy Wayne, Guy Coffey, hope they never change. Lance Russell, they call Banana Nose. Dave Brown was his sidekick, everybody knows. Monday night memories are all I have to remind me of you. Monday night memories are all I have to remind me of
I got to say, I miss you.
Randy West was able to get a lot of these great comments from the meet and greet before we were ahead of our time.
1935, and this is 1994.
That's right.
So now
Mr.
that
Myers.
is 59 years.
This is my 59th year.
Great.
Been here.
Great.
I was at the auditorium the night that Sputnik Monroe made his debut down at the Ellis Auditorium. And that's where I met Guy Coffey and all the rest of the gang, and been friends of Lance Russell's for years.
And you've been here at the Coliseum for Wrestling.
That's right.
Every Monday night,
Every
except
Monday
if you
night.
are somewhere else on vacation.
That's absolutely right. And everybody here is terrific.
What do you think about this night here, Monday night?
This is a wonderful night that I won't forget.
It's a great night. Did you ever think a night like this would ever happen?
I never thought that I would ever see it in my lifetime.
Wonderful idea, huh?
It is a terrific idea. I sat across from Don and Al Green and talked to them for a long time. Sputnik was across from us there.
Okay.
And so it's just been a wonderful night, and it's great to see all of the group here.
You got Lance back where you landed.
Last week sure did. He's here right now.
I seen him on TV. Let's see if we can't find him.
Besides Dave, that's
You enjoying
his
yourself?
lovely
Yes,
wife,
I am.
Martha.
Well, good. What do you think about this Memphis Monday night memory?
Oh, it's something to come back again.
Okay, we're going to sign the autograph.
Think about how
You've
much
got
money
quite a few
Conrad
over there
Thompson's
also, too.
making on these kind of
One
things
for me
now,
and one for
Randy.
the baby.
You're like $1,000 for the weekend.
He makes some dough, doesn't he?
Look at Sputnik there.
Don Green.
Don and Al Green.
What do you think about this?
I love it. It's the greatest thing I've seen here in a long time.
Monday night Memphis Memories is a great thing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait for that. I'm getting a lot of good stuff here.
Oh, okay. So you've been a wrestling fan for championship wrestling here for how long?
Oh, when I had hair.
So that's been a long time.
A long time.
Who's your favorite? If you had to pick one of
He's
your
friends
favorite
with Kevin
legends,
Lawler and has
who
the
would it
same
be?
stupid ass personality
I
Kevin
guess it's a tie.
does.
I got to go between Terry Funk and Phil Hickerson.
Love seeing Phil Hickerson.
Buddy Wayne.
There's Buddy Wayne showing a 1969 Memphis Coliseum ticket.
Enjoying yourself?
Yes, I am.
What do you think about this?
I love it.
Oh, good. Good. You got the
Some of
whole.
those old wrestlers that was when I was a little bitty kid and grew up.
And
to
they're
it.
back here now, huh?
Yes, they
Did
sure are.
Did you ever
Sounds
think
like
you'd see
Dolly
something like
Parton.
this?
No,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. It's-
Great idea, isn't it?
yeah, it sure is.
I tell you, it's something I love to see
That is a
myself.
great
I'm
idea.
like a little
Randy,
fan all
you
over
were way
again.
ahead of the
I
time on
am
this
too.
one.
There's Lawler. And it was the first of its kind back then, Michael, as you
enjoying
were pretty
yourself?
much saying.
Well, good. What do you think about this?
The tickets back then were high. It was $25. Today it'd be a
got so
steal.
many, Ms. Myers. You've been supporting
This is
wrestling.
Mrs. Myers. We heard from Mr. Myers.
Okay.
You know, the thing about it is, okay, it's $25 in 1994. This is $500 today for the same thing.
Hey, we also, the people that bought the meet and greet, we
It's really great
also
seeing all these
served them
older wrestlers, a lot
either
of the newer
pizza or
wrestlers.
barbecue.
You know, I
Well,
had a
we
chance
did
to
it
get
2
in here,
years in a
mix and
row,
mingle
so I
with
forget which
everybody.
was
You
what,
know,
but
it's something to
certainly,
remember.
really, it was just a fantastic time.
And nobody complained.
Jerry
He's
Jarrett.
here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Lance Russell.
Returning to the Mid-South Coliseum for the first time in 5 years. Listen to the people. And listen to
Good
his
evening,
voice.
ladies and gentlemen. What a delight to be down here with this crowd. You've seen a lot, but really you haven't seen anything yet, as we've got a great night of recognition of some of the greats that have been right through these portals many, many times. And so we are going to right now try to pay recognition to some of the people who have been so helpful in making Memphis the #1 wrestling city in America. We want to recognize these people and let you have an opportunity to show your appreciation for the contributions, Dave. We got a good list of them, and let's get going. Starting off with a gentleman who was a longtime manager of the auditorium in Cook Convention Center. Additionally, he was a member of the Athletic Commission. He was also a USWA representative and a guy who has worked as hard as anybody we know in this entire city. Talking about Mr. Guy Coffey. Guy, come on out here.
Mr. Coffey got dressed up that night, Michael.
As you say, look at that jacket.
He did. You know, you talk about a behind-the-scenes unsung hero. Guy Coffey was that. I mean, I can't tell you how many shows he helped get me through when there were changes on the card. He was just so calm and collective. He was a professional. He knew what he was doing. When Guy Coffey was around, it was like having a security blanket because you know everything's going to go good.
Hey, Hines, it is Tuesday, and it's Talking Memphis Wrestling, Ripley Domack and Ripley Frank Morrell. Now,
He started out, he was wrestling as Dwayne Peel. He then became a partner of Bob Ramstead and was a longtime star holding the World Tag titles with Bob. A current promoter for the USWA, Buddy Wayne. Buddy, get on out here.
You mentioned Bob Ramstead. Bob Ramstead could work. I think Bob lost his life in a shooting or something.
oh, is that right? That's a little bit before my time. Look at this one, guys.
And Roy Welch were promoting Memphis Wrestling. And she's been a big part of the success of Memphis Wrestling over the years. She's the mother of Jerry Jarrett, longtime part owner of Jarrett Promotions, and a really hard-working lady, Christine Jarrett.
Look who I got to escort, guys.
You know, Randy, we didn't see Christine much in Memphis. She was more in the Louisville end of the promotion. So it's pretty rare for us to, get a look at her.
That's the only time I remember her ever going there, when I booked her.
I remember her coming into the Nashville on Wednesday night. She would be in the ticket office. And, First Lady of Wrestling. Sorry, folks. First Lady of Wrestling, Christine Jarrett.
Being able to get in here for $3 in the general admission tonight. Let's bring out Eddie Marlin. Eddie, come on out.
I like the music in the background. This is just not your typical Monday night 10 match. This was about the past. This is about memories. This was about Monday night memories.
With the late Tojo Yamamoto, the father of Jeff, also the father of future star Jason, He's the promoter who headed Jarrett Promotions and made Memphis Wrestling the most respected wrestling city in the world. Welcome back, Jerry Jarrett.
Our next legend is indeed that. You knew him as one of the toughest guys pound for pound around. He makes Memphis, Tennessee his home. And let me tell you, when you tried to get this guy and take him off his feet and go to the mat, it was like trying to pull an oak tree with your
This is old timer.
Let's bring out right now, Tretch Phillips. Tretch, get on out here.
Do you remember Tretch Phillips, Rusty, or is that before your time?
That must be before my time because I don't remember him. What was his name again?
Tretch Phillips. How about you, Michael?
No, I don't remember that name either. Must have been very colloquial for Memphis.
Yes, he was.
He's the father of Eddie and Doug Gilbert. Here is Tommy Gilbert.
I remember this guy.
Yes. I'm sure Rusty does as well.
Absolutely. You know, nobody was a better just regular worker in the ring than Tommy Gilbert. He wasn't as good maybe on the mic, but boy, once he got in the ring, there wasn't anybody any better.
No, he was great. Smooth as hell.
She is living back in Memphis, Tennessee now. I would like for you to welcome out lady wrestler Sylvia Hackney. Sylvia, come on down here.
Rusty, do you remember Sylvia Hackney?
I don't think I remember her.
How about you, Michael?
Absolutely. She was a looker in her days, too. Guys would buy tickets to see her.
She looks pretty good right there.
Yes, she does.
Who was the
Martin
lady
stuff.
wrestler, either Randy or Michael, that Elvis Presley was so impressed with?
Penny Banner.
Penny
Banner.
Banner.
That's it. Okay.
Who
so it
ended
wasn't
up marrying Johnny Weavers in the Carolinas.
Okay. I was thinking of Cora Combs at first, but I guess you're right. I guess it was Penny Banner.
There's now. This is Joe's wife.
Corsica Joe.
Corsica Joe's wife.
In connection with a brother team, if I said Joe and Gene, I think most of you would know. Believe me, here was another one of those guys nobody liked to get in and tangle with. Let's bring out right now of the brother team of Joe and Gene, Corsica Joe. Here he comes, Joe.
Love talking to Joe. He had some stories when he and Gene were wrestling. You know who Corsica Gene was, Randy? I think I brought this up before.
I forgot what you said.
It was, gosh, now I just took a, my brain just took a dump. Oh, Lord. Tough guy. Gosh, just a second.
Listen to the pop Phil Hickerson gets, people.
Here is Phil
Gypsy Joe.
Gypsy Joe?
Gypsy Joe was Corsica Gene.
Huh. I didn't realize that. Look at Phil Hickerson.
What a personality.
Our next inductee, many of our younger wrestling fans here tonight probably did not get an opportunity to see him in action. Let me tell you, you missed one. We've seen him in action many times, and he was teamed with, under the tutelage of Sam Bass, with Jerry the King Lawler. Let's bring out Jim White. Jim.
Jerry Lawler's first tag team partner.
Yep. Now somebody says in the chat, Hickerson was so underrated. That's absolutely right. You know, he had a little bit more, the quote, look. I can't believe he wouldn't have made it to the national stage.
Well, Pat, our friend Pat Trammell agrees with you 1,000% on that. Hickerson was.
Making a lot of noise around the territory. And then when I started commentating and announcing, they were still making noise around the territory. They made a lot of noise. They headlined the first card
This gives me, and by the way, I wrote notes for the announcers to bring out these guys. I got chills when these guys came out.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime the Green brothers got near the announce table, we left very quickly. In a big hurry. I'm a little nervous right now. Don and Al Green. Well, there's so many names, ladies and gentlemen, that...
Boy, Don and Al Green, they were like just tough guys in bars. You knew they could just beat the hell out of them.
One guy that we're delighted to bring in here is a fellow
Several of
that's
these people were. Of course, you could Joe Corsi Jr., same thing. You're not going to mess with it.
Participated in one of the biggest crowds for an athletic event outside of a football match that has ever been done in the city of Memphis in Westwood Park. That tells a lot of you older fans who I'm talking about. There isn't but one, the Diamond Ring and Cadillac Man. Here comes the Sputnik Monroe.
Listen to the response to the Mid-South Coliseum 9,000 stars. That's Sputnik Monroe, star of the 50s.
Well, isn't that a great suit and hat?
Yes, sir.
One more hand in appreciation.
I'll tell you how stupid people think.
How's that, Michael?
No, that's the famous line that Sputnik Monroe in the dressing room.
Yeah.
That later on in years, I found out that the men's name was on the front door, but the brains and the drive of that office was none other than Miss Christine Jarrett. Miss Christine, the Hall of Fame.
She didn't have a clue.
He was an outstanding tag wrestler, tagged with a good many different partners. One of them he was particularly known as his partner. He considered him to be his protege, and he did him proud as they became the Southern Tag Champions and honorably held those titles. We're inducting as our next inductee into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, Tojo Yamamoto. Accepting for Tojo Yamamoto is Jerry Jarrett, his former partner and great holder. Jerry?
Make this presentation to one of the greatest men in Memphis wrestling, in fact, in the United States, the world. He's held about every title you can think of, single title and tag. Southern heavyweight, Southern junior heavyweight, Southern Tag Team, World's Heavyweight Champion, Tag Champion, Midwest title, Gulf Coast, you name it, he's held it. With his brother, and the one I'm going to do now really gives me a lot of pleasure, and that's Don Green.
He's held many titles. There's a lot of people owes a lot to him. And in his own words, you know, he was the greatest. And I will say this, he's the only man, the only wrestler in the world that ever cut Jackie Fargo's hair right here in this ring, right here in this building. The only man. So without further ado, it is my pleasure and a great honor to introduce you to mean, lean, hungry Al Green.
And I also believe that Memphis, Tennessee is the home of rock and roll wrestling. And some of the greatest wrestlers that have ever been have come out of this city, and they're still coming through here. And I believe there's one man here tonight that had a lot to do with that. And it's my pleasure to induct Mr. Sputnik Monroe into the Wrestlers Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Still lives in Florence, by the way.
Presented to none other than Lance Russell. And I know that's not much of a surprise to you, but I think this may be. No one deserves to be in the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame any more than this man, Lance Russell.
Oh, thank you, Dave.
I agree with that. He was number one.
Yes,
even
sir.
before Lawler.
All right. We'll start with Michael St. John. I don't know if you've ever seen that part of the show that night from March the 7th, 1994. A couple of people saying something about us not responding to comments. Folks, we were doing video right then, and I didn't want to get off the subject of that. Michael, that video we just saw, what was your thoughts? And Randy West did an excellent job putting that video together.
Well, first of all, again, way ahead of its time. And you talk about memories. I mean, you know, I knew and worked with everybody that was on that film. And what bothers me, or it's sad now, you know, a quarter of the century through the 21st century, of how many of these people we've lost, and how we are so lucky to still have the ones that are in that film still around. And it just, my first thought was, boy, sure would be nice to do another one of these, because there are a lot of people that are getting up in age that I think a lot of people would love to see again. But, you know, that's wall to wall. I mean, you could have gone 30 more minutes and talked about the crowd, the folks that were in there. They're just, you know, incredible people, incredible talents, and every one of them a heart and a mind and a soul for professional wrestling. That's what this industry was built on. People like you just were watching.
Amazing. Rusty, have you ever seen that video we just played?
You know, no. I had seen maybe bits and pieces of it here and there, but I had not seen the whole thing like that. And it was terrific. Yeah, you probably heard me kind of commenting along as it was going on, because I would just get overwhelmed by seeing somebody like Sputnik or Don Green come out. And just loved them, because I remember watching them, way back when I was, under 10 years old, probably, when I first started watching those guys. So, and I agree with Michael. I wish it would be possible to have something like that today. I don't know if it really is, but boy, that was so cool. And it would be nice to see him again.
All right. We will... In just a few minutes, people's asking if we're going to answer a question. We're going to go with our Spotlight Cards of the Week. After that, we will take a little break to catch up on questions. Then we will, at that point, go ahead and take a look at the video from Louisville. This was the show, the television show, a few days after that. By the way, Diane Marlon West says, how many hours did you put into that show, Randy? Well, Diane, me and your husband, Randy West, side by side the whole time. So it just, I'm surprised you didn't kick him out of the house at that point, because I think you did kick me out of the house. As a matter of fact, I was probably staying with you so much in that time, because we'd work all night long. I'm surprised I didn't get banned for life. Anyway, later on, we'll open questions. It's just hard to go to questions when we take a lot of time to lay out this show and pick out stuff to talk about. And when people talking about stuff other than the research that we've talked about and get us in a different direction, it makes the flow of the show go away from what we're trying to go. We're going to do the Spotlight Cards of the Week. And Adam, I want you to go to Richmond, Virginia from the 50s. This was at the ballpark. This is 4130, and this is from the late 50s. And I want you to take a look at this, guys, from May the 18th, late 50s. Joe Scarpello, who later became Chief J. Strongbow, against Nelson Royal. That was the opening match. The second match was Benito Gardena and Roberto Pica against Al Casey and Nick Roberts. And the main event, Frankie Tabler in Richmond, Virginia at the ballpark against the original Gorgeous George. George Wagner, born in 1915. He passed away in 1963 at age 48. He was born in Nebraska. He died in Los Angeles, California. He debuted in 1932. He retired in 1962 of a heart attack. before my time, and probably Rusty's too. This great, interesting card from Richmond. What do you think, Rusty? Did we lose Rusty?
I think we did. I think we did.
Go right to Michael St. John about this great card in Richmond, Virginia. How about you, Michael?
Well, the draw is obviously Gorgeous George in the main event, and anywhere George went, he sold out. It was an amazing run. I just found, it's funny you mentioned, and you put George up in on this thing. I just found a book over the weekend called Whatever Happened to Gorgeous George. It was the first book I ever read about wrestling, and it's a pretty doggone good book. I started reading it again. But Al-Kashi, I think he became a Sheik. I think he turned into a heel. And in fact, I think he was even in Dallas, Sheik Al-Kashi, back in the day. I'm trying to look at, I don't have the card in front of me, so the names. I don't see a lot of Nelson Royal, of course. Nelson did a lot of work on the East Coast. He hit this territory a couple of times early on, but I don't see a lot of familiar names, but I see names that probably got familiar to the folks in that area and were probably over with those guys.
For sure. Now, what do you think? Before your time, Rusty?
Mostly before my time, and I would agree with Michael in that I recognize the names, but I really didn't see them at the time. They were just now names I've looked up and maybe seen on YouTube or elsewhere. So it looks like a great card, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
Interesting wrestling history. And then we will go a few years later. This is Chattanooga, Tennessee, 4135. Chattanooga, Tennessee, 4135. You can tell, Adam, Michael, this is a Nick Goulas ad. World's greatest professional wrestling at the Memorial Auditorium in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The card, Joanne Phillips against Miss Goodner, Don and Al Green against Jackie Fargo and Lester Welch, and a judo jacket tag match, Tojo Yamamoto and Sato against Tex Riley and Tony Ozza. What do you think about this card from the 60s in your part of the country, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Michael?
I started watching TV wrestling right around this time, a little earlier than this, and remember Tex Riley and early Tojo Yamamoto. He still had the goatee and still had hair back in those days, and was that Yoshio Soto. That was Tojo Yamamoto and Toshio Soto. Again, Tojo had a way of bringing these young Japanese stars into the country and tagging with them, and then many of them went on to bigger careers than even his own. May Goodner against Joanne Phillips? I'm trying to figure, that's Joanne Phillips at the top. I don't remember Joanne Phillips. I remember a lot of lady wrestlers. Now you could throw Cora Combs' picture in there and I'd recognize it instantly, but I don't remember Joanne Phillips. But again, this card with a judo jacket match, time limit, disqualification waived, which means no DQ, winner take all, which meant you got both the purse of the winning share and the losing share. American style versus Japanese style. Tex Riley and Tony Correa. That's a new one. That may be Tony Charles in later life. Who knows? But interesting. Jackie Fargo and Lester Welch. I remember when they first tag teamed together. I remember Herb and Lester Welch tag teaming together. But Fargo and Lester Welch against Don and Al Green, I'd pay to see that today.
What's your thoughts on this card, Rusty?
Some of them are the same as Michael's in that Joanne Phillips and Miss Goodner. I don't get, and I kept up with the lady wrestlers pretty closely back in the day, but I don't know those two guys. I was trying to think when I saw the second match, Don and Al Green versus Fargo and Lester Welch, and Michael started to mention this. There was Lester Welch, there was Herb Welch, there was Roy Welch, and wasn't there one other? Weren't there
Jack
four?
Welch? Jack
That's
Welch.
it. Okay,
and he ran the Huntsville and Florence. He ran the territories for Nick here and Roy here in North Alabama, Florence, and here in Huntsville.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And they were all from West Tennessee somewhere, as I recall. I think it was like near the Dyersburg area, perhaps.
Yeah, somewhere Union City, Dyersburg, somewhere over in that area. Also, and Randy, you may want to just for a lot of folks that back in those days, you had the Fuller clan or the Fuller bunch and the Welch bunch, but the Fullers were really Welches, correct?
Yes. It's just Roy Welch, a promoter, his son Ed Welch wanted to be a wrestler, didn't want to be called a Welch, so changed his name to the Fullers, and his sons Robert and Ron did the same thing. We will go to 1968. This is in Bo James country, the king of Kingsport. This is in Kingsport, Tennessee. This is Tuesday, June the 11th, 1968. Whitey Caldwell, the late just legend that was killed in the early 70s, I think it was early 70s, in a tragic car wreck, Whitey Caldwell against Johnny Long. Now, tickets for this card in Kingsport, Tennessee at the National Guard Armory was 75 cents, $1.25 and $1.75 for ringside. Then we had a top ladies match. Miss Sylvia Hackney, who obviously was at Monday Night Memories, and Miss Sarah Lee was also there at Monday Night Memories. And in 1968, on a Tuesday night, June the 11th, they were in Kingsport, Tennessee. Now, the main event of the night was Corsica Joe and Gene Dundee. 7 years before there was anybody that knew anything about the superstar, against Kingsport legend and king of Kingsport, Ron Wright, and his tag team partner was one of my first partners that I rode with on the road, riding partners, me and Jeff Jarrett, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of miles in the car with the French Angel, Frank Morrell. Corsica Joe, Bill and Gene Dundee. See, I have to say Bill Dundee, Gene Dundee, and Corsica Joe against Frank Morrell and Ron Wright. What do you think about this card, Michael?
I don't know. Sorry about that. The cat rolled across us. I don't remember Gene Dundee in this area. He may have been, mainly heavily East Tennessee, Knoxville, and Kingsport, and Johnson City, and all that area. I don't remember Gene Dundee. Corsica Joe could go with anybody, and of course the rest of that card, there's some highlights on that. And Whitey Caldwell opening, it must have been sort of early in Whitey's career, because like you were saying, Randy, he became a real legend in the Knoxville and East Tennessee area as his career progressed, and he and Ron Wright had some hellacious fights up there. So that's a typical East Tennessee card with a couple of the Middle Tennessee cards. And I'm sure Corsica Joe and Sarah Lee traveled together because they were husband and wife. So make the trip over to East Tennessee, do a couple of shots, and come back to Nashville.
Next card we're going to take a look at, and I wish Pat Trammell, because one of the most memorable events in pro wrestling history for Pat and for the wrestling world alone. We will go to the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. Jim Cornette was a photographer at ringside. The Wrestling Fans International Association was doing their convention, and what they saw was a memorable night of wrestling on July the 20th, 1980, Omni in Atlanta. Listen to this card, and I'll do a little pause so you can just get in your mind the names of this talent on this card. Opening match, Chavo Guerrero against the future Dirty Dutchman, Dutch Mantell, July 20th, 1980. Second match, Charlie Buffon, who I've never heard of, against Alexis Smirnoff. Third match of the night, Bruiser Bob Sweetan against Dennis Condrey. Next match, Mike George against Steven Regal. Then
I believe
came,
that's excuse me, I think that's a tag team, Randy. I believe that's Condrey.
Okay, it's Dennis
again.
Condrey and Bob Sweetentan against Mike George and Steve Regal. Thanks for correcting me on that,
Right
Michael.
on
I
that.
appreciate
There you
that.
go.
For sure. Then the next match was Mr. Wrestling 2 against the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff. Then came a NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. The champion, Les Thornton, against Steve Kern, followed by a grudge tag team match. What a heel tag team. Mark the Manic Lewin and Abdullah the Butcher against Stan Hansen and Kevin Sullivan. Then came a Texas death match. Tony Atlas against Baron von Raschke. After that, I will skip that next match because the next match was a cage match. Because it was a cage match, they saved it for last. Then came a NWA World Championship match. Harley Race defending against Tommy Wildfire Rich on July 20th, 1980.
Special
Then
guest
came,
referee on that, by the way. You may want to point out the special guest referee, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Lou Thez.
Wow.
Lou Thez last was world champion in 1967, 1968. This was in 1980, and a good point there. And then the cage match, the great switch, the great turn in 1980. It was a cage match. Ole Anderson and Dusty Rhodes against the Assassins. Referees were Ivan Koloff and Gene Anderson. That's a Mid-South Coliseum worthy card. This was at the Atlanta in Omni in Atlanta. And Rusty, what did you in the world did you think about this spectacular card?
Well, obviously I wasn't there for that, but having read about it and seen bits and pieces of it on YouTube, what a big card. How many NWA world champions were there on that card? I mean, it's hard to count. I went then even going back to the early matches, Chavo Guerrero versus Dutch Mantel. And I will point out that's not Chavo Guerrero Jr. who wrestled in the WWD. It's Chavo Sr., who also wrestled as, I think it was Chavo Classic in the WWE. So that was Chavo Jr.'s father. I did not know either Charlie Buffon or Alexis Smirnoff. I did know, obviously, Dennis Condrey, because he was in Memphis a whole lot. But Bob Sweetan, I did not know him that well until just maybe a week ago. I happened to stumble upon a video with Bob Sweetan doing a promo with somebody, and I couldn't tell what city it was from. But man, Bob Sweetan was ripped. He was a big dude. I mean, I had never really realized that about him. What else? And then find out the Rich versus Rice world title match. Was that before or after Tommy Rich actually beat Rice and was world champion for 4 or 5 days? Do you know either Michael or Randy?
I want to say this is after that, I believe.
I believe that too. I don't know the
Okay.
facts for sure. I'm not sure 100%.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But man, what a loaded card. Tony Atlas and Baron von Raschke. Geez, what a loaded card that was. And I was going to ask if you hadn't said it, Randy, if that was the big turn of 1980 when Ole turned on Dusty. So you mentioned that. That's probably one of the most famous turns in wrestling of all time.
Yes, that is it, and it was in the works for a good year, maybe longer, and then they did the deal with Ole and Dusty teaming together, and one of the most heated things ever. Man, Michael, we brag on our Memphis cards a lot. Hard to top this in Atlanta.
Well, it's dynamite on a card for sure. One of the wrestlers I'm noticing on this that really I don't think gets his propers, and I know a lot of people probably never saw him, was Les Thornton. Les Thornton was British. He was a scientific wrestler, but he was one of, and Johnny Walker and was the man of 1,000 holes. Well, Les Thornton was a man of 1,000 holes, and he would work he'd be on the mat. He was a matician, if you would. And he doesn't get a lot of credit in this area, but I know Les Thornton in Europe was a major star. So that even adds even more credence to this card. Maniac Mark Lewin and Abdullah the Butcher as a team. Wonder if there was juice in that match. Never mind. There had to be.
Understatement of the year.
There you go. And Smirnoff, who was it? Smirnoff and he had another, the Russians. One time they were called the Mad Russians, and they were Smolov. Was it Smirnoff and Koloff?
Yes.
They were tag team partners at one time. So that and Dutch Mantel. I mean, I love seeing Dutch on that card because Dutch, an incredible wrestler in his own right, but he's on a loaded card right there. And of course, Steve Regal, the man that took Triple H under his wing, and Steve Regal, again, a British wrestler that was much more heralded across the pond, if you would, than he was in the United States, but made quite a name for himself.
Let me interrupt you on that because
I was going to say, I don't think it's the same Steve Regal.
There's two different Steve Regals.
Oh, okay.
This is not Lord Stephen Regal. This is a Steve Regal that in the late 70s and maybe from 78, 79, this is Wilbur Snyder's son-in-law, and he's a big baby face in the Memphis territory in 78 and 79. Different guys.
Different guy. I apologize. I just saw the name and went off on that tangent. Yeah. Wilbur Snyder's son. Okay, I remember that guy. But still, what a loaded card! What a loaded card! I wonder what the money on that card was. That had to be advanced prices, and that had to be big money for back then.
Oh my God! And I'm sure because it held more than the Mid-South Coliseum. It held 16,000 people. Now we're going to do something that we have never, Michael. We can't say this much. We have never ever talked about this town as far as their wrestling. This is from the famous Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles, California. You see the hype, the biggest wrestling card in the world. This was August the 27th, 1980. August the 27th, 1980. The world famous Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles. Mike LaBelle was the promoter. Now, I may butcher the names, and Michael, you may have to help me, but Raw Mata against El Solitario led it off. Then came a U.S. Championship match, Paul DeMarco against a wrestler that in and out of our territory, and we talked about him last week, Cowboy Frankie Lane. Then came the American Tag Team Championship. The American Tag Team Champion, Gordman and Goliath against Aito and, how do you pronounce that, Michael?
Shibuya. Kenja Shibuya.
For the Americans.
On the West Coast. Kenja Shibuya and I believe that was Mr. Sato was his partner. But it was
for the America's Tag Team Championship. Then came a grudge match. This feud went all over the country and all over the world. The original Sheik, Michael's buddy, Ed Ferret, against the great Bobo Brazil. And the final match that sold the tickets, John Tolis had blinded Freddie Blassie months earlier. They built it for months, and they sold out the Olympic, and it was a history-making match. And after 25 years of being the most heated heel in the territory, Classy Freddie Blassie became the babyface out for revenge against John Tolis. So, Michael, do you agree with me? And are you as excited as I am? Because, man, we don't just cover and we just don't talk Memphis wrestling. We cover everything in the country, plus we get out of the country as well. What do you think about this? This is really a historic card, and you look at the breakup of talent and from the Spanish-speaking people, from the Sheik's territory, and obviously the California wrestlers. Michael?
Well, you took the words out of my mouth. I think the card is very indicative of what the melting pot of Southern California is. There are quite a few wrestlers, Mexican wrestlers on that card. There are Hispanic wrestlers. There's a lot of wrestlers, several wrestlers there from the Pacific Rim, and very much that's very much the culture of Southern California. John Tolos was a big heel out there. You know, I've been to the Olympic, and one thing I wanted to point out about this, back then when these matches were held at the Olympic, there was no air conditioning in the Olympic. And the Olympic was down not far from University of Southern California, so it's a bit inland. You know, you'd get that ocean breeze and you get the June gloom and all that on the ocean, keeps the temperatures down in the 70s for the most part. But hot August night in Los Angeles at the Olympic, boy, I know there were some smells coming out of that place, popcorn and cotton candy. But that's an incredible card. And you look at Blassie and Tolos, Freddie, and I think back then, if I'm not mistaken, the Sheik did some work. They did some cross promoting between Detroit and the Midwest territory that the Sheik was running, and LaBelle's Los Angeles territory. So they swapped off talent sometimes. So I think this was probably a repayment to the West Coast guys. And to be honest with you, the Sheik and Bobo Brazil probably flew on the same airplane and kayfabed all the way.
Absolutely. How about you, Rusty? You're like me, a Memphis boy.
Oh, I am a Memphis guy, but actually I lived in Southern California for a while when I was a fellow. And Michael's right. The old Olympic Auditorium was down in South Central LA, not too far from the undergraduate USC campus. I was actually a fellow at LA County Hospital, which was next to the USC Medical School campus. But we knew about USC undergrad, and I personally knew about the Olympic Auditorium. You know, one interesting thing about the Olympic, and I don't know whether Randy or Michael, either one of you guys will remember this. You remember the television show at the time, the Beverly Hillbillies?
Yes, sir.
They did a couple of episodes on wrestling, and they did them out of the Olympic Auditorium. Like Granny started fighting some wrestler.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, that's where that came from. You know, because they were producing that show in Los Angeles. That their house was actually in Beverly Hills. Right. So the wrestling on the air in the mid '60s then was from the Olympic Auditorium. So, and it was very popular at the time. So they did a couple of episodes of the Beverly Hillbillies on wrestling from the Olympic. And that's probably my biggest contribution, or about all I know about wrestling at the Olympic Auditorium.
One of the other things, too, just to bring in real quickly, is this was before the advent of Lucha Libre. And Lucha, you had a lot of Hispanic wrestlers that were Australian catch-as-catch-can wrestlers back in those days. And the high flyers were not into they had not peaked into what became Lucha Libre. So this is sort of a pre-Lucha kind of card. And again, the crowds there at the Olympic, and I'd never been to a wrestling, I've been to a couple of events there while I was living out there, but the crowds at the Olympic, inside the Olympic, I remember in the lobby, they had pictures from the wrestling shows, old black and whites, and the crowds were totally mixed. I mean, there was no racism. There was no, Southern California was a big old melting pot, and wrestling was the cauldron that stirred the pot, if you would. So the Olympic has a lot of memories in old wrestling history, but a lot of people this side of the Rockies don't know about the history of the Olympic and wrestling in Southern California.
Interesting stuff, and I love when we look at the 50s. I love when we obviously look at the towns in the Tennessee territory, but when we see the Omni card and we see the LA card and we see Freddie Blassie, part of history. In just a few minutes, we'll go back to some more memories. My second most memorable card I ever booked was in Louisville, Kentucky in '95. We called it A Night to Remember. That's coming up. We got video coming up in a minute. We're going to open up to questions right now. So guys, just write your questions out and we will get to that, and we'll go through some of the comments we've had. And we've had some smartasses here today, but also we've had people that obviously are regulars that are respectful and love wrestling and not trying to be a comedian. There's so many comedians out of work in this damn country, and now we got people on this show trying to be one. Anyway, Thomas says he loves classy Freddie Blassie. Frank Seaton has a very interesting comment. Said in those days they could spread it out over a year. Now they spread it out over 2 weeks, and it's a long program now. If they go 2 weeks, that's for sure. And James Davis, yeah, we think that's around the time when Tommy held that title for just a little bit. Frank, talking about that Atlanta card, said the people wanted to kill Ole that night, and he also says that was a loaded card. Of course, Freddie Blassie, one of the lines he used, and he even put out a record, Michael, called, do you remember this? The Pencil Neck Geek.
Pencil Neck Geek.
So everybody, just for another minute or two, we're going to have the opportunity to answer your questions. So let's get those out there, Michael.
I got a question, and for the panel, but also for the folks that are joining us. Old school wrestling, bigger manager that was more over, Freddie Blassie or now I just had a brain fart. Sorry, my brain's going crazy tonight, Doc. I need some Prevagen. Freddie Blassie or Bobby Heenan?
Different eras, kind of.
Different eras.
I think Freddie Blassie was a bigger star as a wrestler than Bobby was. Then I think obviously he transformed into a manager, and he was toward the end of his career, and he wasn't at his peak. He couldn't take the bumps. He couldn't fly. He couldn't do that sort of thing where Bobby can. I think overall Bobby Heenan, I would say he's the best manager throughout his body of work than anybody that's ever done this thing.
I thought that Freddie Blassie blazed a lot of trails for managers that other managers copied when he was managing, because I remember as a wrestler, Freddie Blassie was really over in the Georgia territory and New Orleans. I mean, he was a superstar in New Orleans. And then when he came out with the cane and the cufflinks and the fancy, he was the gentleman's gentleman, the kind of thing. And then a lot of wrestling managers copied him. In fact, the cane gimmick that Saul Weingroff used in our territory came directly from Freddie Blassie.
And obviously Jimmy Hart for many, many years had the cane as well. We're getting another comment and want to go to the comments, and I got to scroll.
Andrew says, did Bobby spend any time in Memphis? He did, in fact, do a few promos when Nick Bockwinkel came to Memphis in the early 80s. I can't remember whether Bobby himself personally came to Memphis, but he was on Saturday morning TV several times.
Bobby, I think my memories is he came to Memphis one time, and that was in 1978 when we had a working agreement with the AWA. I think Jerry Jarrett, being Jerry Jarrett, discovered real quick, said Nick Bockwinkel can talk for himself. Plus, we got managers around here. If Lawler needs somebody in his match to interfere or something, I think it was done because Nick would, number one, because Nick can certainly talk for himself better than anybody else. I mean, he could talk for himself. And so Jerry saved a payoff, and he saved a plane ticket. Do you agree with that? To me, it's good business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What was I going to say? I still believe, though, Bobby Heenan had to be the greatest manager of all time. And you could argue he's the greatest performer in the entire sport. He could take bumps. He could work. He was a tremendous manager. He was a tremendous commentator on the mic. Boy, there are not many guys who could do as many things well as Bobby Heenan could do.
And the thing about Heenan, to think about it, Heenan was over on the West Coast. He was over at AWA. I mean, he was on AWA long before he was with Vince and his crew. And then once he got to New York, and I think a lot of the gimmick or the cartoon character image that Vince did in the late 70s and all during the 80s, I think a lot of that was the brainchild of Bobby Heenan, because he was also behind the scenes a very creative influence. And like you said, very glib, could talk, could work, could take the bump. I mean, could commentate, could interview. I mean, Heenan had it all. But classy Freddie Blassie, though, sort of blazed the trail for a lot of managers that came after him.
One more question real quick, and the last question that came in, Andrew Martin, if you could put that up in the screen for me. Andrew Martin asked, what was it like working with Jamie Dundee? Do you still have contacts with him? What's the craziest thing you ever saw Jamie do?
Crack cocaine.
Oh, I was doing it with him, so I can't say that was crazy. Anyway, don't say we don't shoot on this show. The craziest thing that Jamie Dundee ever did, he was such a comedian, and I almost fired his ass in Louisville, Kentucky, because we had an issue with the Louisville Gardens. His name was Al N.T. He was the manager of the Louisville Gardens. He was a real serious guy, and sometimes something would happen. He wasn't smart to the business, and we wouldn't allow him in the dressing room. Do you remember in Louisville, Michael, where the dressing rooms were downstairs, and Pat Malone, I don't care who it was, I don't care if it was the President of the United States, he wasn't going to get down in that dressing room. That's just the way it was. So Al and T, the managers, asked to see me. He knew better than try to get past Pat Malone, or Pat Malone would cut his ass. Anyway, Al wanted to see me, so Pat said, I'll go get him, and so here I come. I come upstairs, and the wrestlers hanging around in the area, the kind of the go position as you go out. On one side was the heels, on one side the baby faces. So I come up the stairs and walk over with Al, and as a matter of fact, it wasn't a problem. I remember the deal, and it was around this period of time. Got real lucky on this deal, because I was going to do, this is 95, I was going to do the Memories on a Sunday. I was going to do Memphis on a Saturday, Louisville on a Sunday, so that's what we were going to do there. But Al was coming to me and say they double booked the thing, and he said that he was going to have to switch us to a Sunday, but that he was going to give us half rent. Didn't know I had this big Legends card in my head, and I damn sure wasn't going to tell him. So that's what the meeting was about. He was like he was doing me a favor, and thought I would get mad and all that stuff, but I knew that it would work out just fine. Anyway, so Jamie Dundee, we work on these events several months ahead. This was in the winter, maybe February. It was snowing. It was snowing like hell. So Jamie went outside, got a snowball. I had my back to that entrance. Jamie took that snowball when I'm in a meeting with the manager of the Louisville Gardens, and he took that snowball and hit me right in the back of the head. And I snapped. I called him Al and T there. It didn't matter to me. I called him a no good mother. You know what? I called him a son of a, you know what? I called him every name known to man. I said, you pull something like that again, I'll fire your effing ass right now. And I couldn't. It was hard not to laugh, and everybody was laughing, but I had to have my authority, and that's the craziest thing that he ever did. Thomas asking about the King, and last I heard, Jerry's doing fine. James asking why was Austin Idol alike away from the ring.
He
He
was
was
a
a
prick.
businessman.
He was a prick.
Sometimes when he got unhappy with his payoff, you'd never see him for a year. And Jerry Jarrett or Jerry Lawler or Nick Goulas or Randy Hills or Ole Anderson or Jim Barnett or whoever would say, I'll never use that son of a bitch again. And we'd use that son of a bitch again. And that's exactly the deal with Austin Idol, because he was over so much and could turn business around. No matter how mad you were with him, you'd bring him out. Do you agree with that, Michael?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Go ahead.
jump on
Go ahead. Go
I was
ahead,
going to
Doc.
say, the thing I always wonder about Austin Idol, he had the look, great body, he could talk, women loved him. I was always surprised he didn't make it bigger on the national circuit with either WCW or WWF because of all those things. I guess it was probably because he really wasn't all that interested in that, is the way it sounded like to me.
I don't think he liked to travel either. I don't think he liked to be away from home for a long period of time. And I said that, and working with him, he was never a prick to me. And the times I was with him, like Randy said, consummate professional, and would stand there and you get ready for the interview and you chit chat, or he might say, hey, leave me, say this to me so I can say something. He was that kind of guy. I never, ever had a problem with Austin Idol, but I know in the dressing room, there were guys that really didn't like him for whatever reason. And I think Randy hit the nail on the head that he'd get a little sour about payoffs, or he'd feel like he was screwed about this or that. And then once that happened, then, he'd be out of there. But I'm like you. I think he was a great talent. I think in this day and time, I think he's working still with the NWA. Is he not working with the guy from Stone Temple Pilots? And they just got a big deal, by the way. I don't know if you guys talked about it last week, but they just got a big deal on Roku, I think it was. They just signed a major deal that all their wrestling is going to be, you buy a new TV now, you don't need cable TV. There's a ton of channels up there you can watch forever and a day. But to be one of those channels, and have NWA wrestling on there, forever and a day. I have also heard I think I may have read this last week, that there are some NWA tapes out of the St. Louis office that are going to be released for the first time in 50 years. So we're going to be able to see Pat O'Connor, and we're going to be able to see Johnny Valentine, and we're going to be able to see some of those legends that came out of the Kiel Auditorium, that they've been remastered and are going to be released.
Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins is the owner of the NWA.
I said Stone Temple Pilots. All those garage bands, and it was the 90s. They're all they're hodgepodge together. You place one here and one there, and this one overdosed and that one overdosed, and Billy Corgan survived. I think Billy Corgan's got some decent talent. I've actually seen one of his shows on Arena TV or something on my Samsung, and I think there's some talent there. And I think if they got more exposure, they might be a third company that could really, jump in and compete. And Randy, did I dream this, or is the WWE now running TNA?
No, they have a working relationship, but not a ownership in TNA. Last card, and then we have pictures today. We have a lot of other stuff to do, plus another video. We talk about one of the things that put me on the map. A year later, this son of a gun got me probably the best idea, the best run that I ever got in the wrestling business for sure. And this is something I'm really proud of. It's the first card that I have in the design section, Adam. It is a newspaper ad from the Louisville Times Journal. It's 4117. And this I saw on Facebook a few weeks ago. And this is the card that didn't exactly cover everything, and there's one thing that we didn't do on this card, but this was the first time in probably 5 years that we ran a newspaper ad. This is a Sunday event, June the 11th at 7:30 at the Louisville Gardens in Louisville, Kentucky, a tribute to the great, fabulous Jackie Fargo, a celebration of USWA Wrestling's 25th anniversary in Louisville. The stars of the 70s, 80s, and 90s reunite for this night to remember. And the card that ended up at the Louisville Garden that particular night, first I think I'll start with some of the legends. Of course, Eddie Marlin was there, and Jerry Jarrett was there, and Thomas Marlin, and so many of the great things. And of course, a big tribute to Louisville wrestling promoter Christine Jarrett, the fabulous Jackie Fargo, again, Jerry Jarrett in the house, Thomas Marlin, and so many more. A great presentation we'll see in a few minutes. The opening match is the worst wrestling event of any match I ever booked in my life, in the history of the world. It's somebody that Handsome Jimmy Valiant brought in from the Carolinas to drive him. He's a smaller guy called Super Mario, and he was a drizzling shits. I mean, bad. And he opened up the night and about killed the town against Gorgeous George III. Then came a U.S. ladies title match, Debbie Combs against Miss Texas. A Smoky Mountain heavyweight championship, Tracy Smothers against Nature Boy Buddy Landell. Brickhouse Brown against the debut of Billy Jack Haynes. A U.S. Tag Team Championship. This was the beginning of the USWA Smoky Mountain Wrestling feud. And man, the best feud I ever booked in my life. It started this night with PG-13, Rock and Roll Express. This stole the show. This is the greatest match of the night, the best reception of the night. Jerry Jarrett was back and was sitting with me in the back area up in the taped off, roped off bleacher section back there. And he hadn't seen PG in 3 years, and he came out there, and after they made their entrance on the stage and came, he said, "What in the hell did you do with them?" He said, "Those are stars." He was blown away. PG-13 and Rock and Roll Express. Then came a fantastic match. Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert with Ronnie Gossett against the return here on June the 11th, 1995, of Stan Lane, Steve Kern, the Fabulous Ones. And in this match, man, it's very interesting, but we need to get a pop in Louisville. The mouth of Louisville, Jim Cornette, Rich and Gilbert against the Fabulous Ones. Then came a unified championship match. In that unified championship match, Jerry the King Lawler against Joe LeDuc, and a 10-man best of Louisville match. A 10-man best of Louisville match. Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, Joe LeDuc, the top talent on that card in that match. And I wanted to go with a local angle in Memphis the year before. We put Lawler over in Best of Memphis and Best of Louisville because Lawler wasn't there every week. Brian Christopher was, and he was the winner of the Best of Louisville. We shot an angle. Billy Jack came out, switched Tim Hill, busted the trophy over, and the rest was history. Now, we'll watch the video in just a minute, but we'll start with you, Rusty, first. What a loaded night to remember in Louisville, Kentucky, buddy.
Oh, man, I got all kinds of questions about this card. I'm just going to start at the top and work my way down. So you mentioned Super Mario. Who was Gorgeous George III? I don't remember that person.
Yeah, he was in here in 95 and 96. He was changed his name legally to George Wagner. We had him in here, and when Eddie Gilbert passed away, George was in the territory, and we needed to give Doug some time off. So Gorgeous George III was the partner that we had for Tommy and did a good job. He was a little weird guy, and he also wrestled for WCW a little bit as Will, a little bit on the goofy side, but he was a nice guy. He really was. Any other questions about that card and why you think about it, Adam? Let's put the card back up there for Rusty.
Oh yeah. So I love Debbie Combs. She was Cora Combs' daughter, I believe. Isn't that
Yes.
correct?
Right.
Right. And Miss Texas was Miss Jackie, who went on to
Yes.
be in WCW and WWF. And then I realized when I saw the next one, Landale versus Smothers, that must have been a time, Randy, when you were working with Jim Cornette, in a working agreement between Smoky Mountain Wrestling when they were still open and Power Pro Wrestling when you were still going too, which is
Let
how
me
the,
stop. Let me stop you on that. First of
yeah, go
all,
ahead.
this was the '95. Power Pro didn't start to '98, so this is strictly the USWA Smoky Mountain thing. But this was night number one of the relationship. Night number
Okay.
one of the relationship. It intended to be just for this big card, and then it evolved in the Smoky Mountain USWA feud. But initially
I
it was
get
a
it.
night only thing, but it turned into something big, Rusty.
And that brought me down to what I was going to ask next. So PG-13 versus rock and roll. I assume at that time the rock and roll were Smoky Mountain guys, and PG-13 was obviously a Memphis or USWA team, correct?
Now, in the people's mind, because they never heard of Smoky Mountain,
True.
we brought them in as the iconic, legendary, legends, former
Right.
Memphis guys. They came in as a babyface team, and we did the big switch later in the night. That was absolutely uh, tremendous. Any other comments about the card there, Rusty?
I remembered when the Fabs had Jim Cornette with them for a while on Memphis TV, and they were pretty good together. I thought Stan and Steve worked pretty well with Jim Cornette as a manager. They both could talk pretty well, but just adding Jim to it made it even better. I remember the time Jim Cornette said something about wanting to beat up Jackie Fargo, and Steve jumped on him and said, "No, we're not going to do that, Cornette. We're not going to jump on back Jackie Fargo." And Cornette was so good.
Yeah.
He said, Stan, go talk to him backstage. Get him on. It was so
He was
good.
panicking, no doubt
Oh
about
God,
it.
that was so funny. So I thought the Fabs worked pretty good with Jim Cornette. I wish that had lasted a little longer.
Real quick, so Michael Adam can look at this card again from 1995. And what the hell were you doing? You couldn't make 1994. What were you doing in 1995?
I was in St. Louis, and I remember this card because it was right before I started coming into Memphis to do shows again. And I remember this card, and it was huge. Johnny Randolph, I think, was there also as one of the people that I don't know if he did some video for you guys or what at that point. But this is, I mean, you talk about Memphis being loaded with Memphis all-stars and Memphis superheroes. The same thing for Louisville. The thing about Louisville, though, is Louisville was a big Jackie Fargo, Jerry Jarrett town. I don't think there was a town when Jerry Jarrett was wrestling that he was more over in and was a top money draw than Louisville, Kentucky.
Absolutely.
And so it's sort of a unique situation there. But that I'll tell you, this was a Sunday card at the Gardens. But I got to tell you, Louisville Gardens on a Tuesday night would rock and roll. And that was a great place for wrestling. I mean, the one thing the Louisville Gardens gave, I think more so than any other arena in the territory, is you were close, or at least felt closer to the ring. Even if you were upstairs in the dress circle or whatever, there was something about the ambience of the Louisville Gardens and the noise. You could have 50 people there that would sound like 5,000. And the ambience of Louisville Gardens was incredible. They also served beer.
Yes.
And they were the first. They were the first one in our territory to serve beer. So you can imagine how a hot angle got even hotter with a few brewskis.
Hey, Thomas, you said why did the Fabs never go to the WWE? They never went as a tag team. Both Stan Lane and Steve Kern both went to the WWF at different times for sure. Now, Adam, is there any way for you to do audio? Because you need to assist me on this. We found a tape that's labeled USWA Wrestling from June the 10th of 95. But this tape showed highlights of the June the 11th, so that's impossible. It's labeled on a week that before the event ever took place. So this setup, this is a TV show that Randy West put together. It was a 2-camera shoot. So Adam, if you can hop on audio-wise here, if you can. Am I explaining it right? Because you found this audio.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So it's a show that is mostly footage of that night, but they do the wraparounds in studio. You can tell they taped it after because there's no crowd. But it was just for this market. And yeah, I think the date is off a week. This was probably the 17th TV that aired in Louisville, would be my guess.
Adam, comment to the comment that while you were talking, I was producing. Go ahead and mentioning this, the comment I have on screen.
Yeah, Wolfie there saying the match that shot us to the moon. Thanks, Randy. Yeah, talking about PG-13 and the rock and roll. We've actually had Wolfie on one time with us to give insight into this match as we watched it. And I think one of the funniest sides that I had never noticed was he talks about during the match, Jamie actually got sick, and you don't really see it, but you can kind of see Jamie go out of the ring for a minute and have to come back.
Yeah, it was classic. So how are we going to do this video? Are we going to come in and out? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, because I don't have a heck of a lot of time to go too much over tonight, but we can try to like skim through it or whatever. Like I say, I think it's neat to get the studio entrance of how they talk about it, and then we can come in and out of it as you want to. So I'll just start it and we can go from there.
And if you have to go, just like you had to go help Colin earlier, especially with Warren, with Wolfie watching, you know, as long as I can keep Rusty and Michael here with me, I can get us off the air if I have to.
Okay, I'll get it started, and we can go from there. And this is also an open that we don't show a lot from USWA that I always thought was kind of a neat open. And I was always curious if Randy West did this open or if the TV station did this open, but we can show that real quick.
All right, here we go. We're watching Night to Remember, Louisville, Kentucky, my favorite arena in the territory, hands down. This is Louisville, Kentucky at the Louisville Gardens on June the 11th of 95. Highlighted this, we put this together for TV. James Ronnie Garvin, Ronnie Guy said I didn't find him. He just popped back up. Original hanger-oner.
Hello again, everybody. Lance Russell for Corey Macklin, Dave Brown, and we are ready to go. And I tell you what, Davey, we've said it a lot of times about good shows coming up. I think today's show is one of the best layouts I have ever seen. I love the material we're going to be doing.
It's a special show today. We're going to have some highlights for you. We're going to have a lot of things, but we're going to include some highlights of Memphis Memories 2, which happened at the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum, and also, of course, the big Night to Remember at Louisville Gardens.
Right out of Louisville Gardens. In addition to that, we're going to be seeing like a match with the Rock and Roll Express against PG-13.
Yeah, a little incident involving handsome Jimmy Valiant and Brandon Baxter. Trying
to overlook that one.
Well, that's coming up a little bit later on. And also the first woman against woman, hair versus hair match.
Yeah, that was Miss Texas going against Uptown Karen. We've got it on videotape for you. And we have got some additional things out of Memphis Memories and Louisville's 25th anniversary of wrestling in the Louisville Gardens. They're going to be shown. We'll have the best of Louisville elimination match. All of it's going to be right here on today's show, in one show, buddy.
And more, too.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. Let's get ready for it in just a moment.
Kind of odd seeing an open, Michael, without the crowd.
First of all, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think
I tell you, Dave, I tried to make it a
that
practice
you
to
had
let youth
You had two TV stations in Louisville running USWA wrestling, and Channel 41 was one of them, and I think Wave 3 was the other. And if I'm not mistaken, and Randy West may have to chime in on this if he's watching, I believe they created a different open for the different stations so it wouldn't look like the exact same show on both stations. I may be wrong, but I believe that's what happened there.
My memory is Channel 3 went up, and we went to Channel 41, moved the TV from a Saturday to Sunday. This is Brandon Baxter's first debut in Memphis, I believe. Let's watch.
Nice hair.
Show no respect to anybody. I saw one incident I liked a whole lot, though. It was one involving Jimmy Hart. I wanted them to show that tape today, but as always, you probably have been greasing the palms of the producers because that tape's not shown. You're the worst announcer in the history of wrestling. And, you know, do you remember that incident that Jimmy Hart did to you?
Oh, listen, I remember everything about Jimmy Hart.
I've got you a little present. I've got you a little present.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Why don't we just go ahead and relive
Hey,
that?
come on, all right. Now get that flower out of here, Brandon. I'll tell you what, you won't be back in here any at all. Hey, they got a surprise for you.
Hey, you pumpkin! You don't come out here and talk to Lancer Dancer! You show Lance Russell respect! Do you understand? Hey, people! Hey! I'll show you! Look at here,
Brandon Baxter, welcome to Memphis! Jimmy, my boy, I love you. Thank you. While the smoke is clearing.
We got a lot more to go, including a big match between the Rock and Roll Express and PG-13 when we return.
I crown thee the new king, Paul the King Ellering.
Where Jimmy Hart was playing coloring Jerry Lawler's broken leg. The new king of
Night to
wrestling.
remember in Louisville was just indeed every bit that. I was so tickled to be able to be there, and one of the great things that took place was the title match that took place between PG-13, Wolfie D and JC Ice, against legendary Rock and Roll Express. Let's share it with everybody, Dave.
Through the feud with PG-13's first major feud was the Eliminators, Perry Saturn and John Cronus. And that got them over because PG whooped the Eliminators 5 weeks in a row. And then they had a great feud with Rich and Gilbert that put them on the mark. And apparently Adam's running through this, and this is one of my favorite matches. Let's just see where he's queued it up to.
You know, Panini says Lancer Dancer, I heard,
and that was where it was hair versus hair. It was a little hairy for Miss Texas for a little while.
No doubt about it. And not only that, then she was going against the one and only Debbie Combs in another match, too. We got some highlights of that coming up.
Okay, let's get and take a look at Miss Texas. And Miss Texas tripped up. Karen is over the top. 1, 2. She gets out just at the count of 2.
Whoa, let me tell you, I thought that Karen had her. I thought she had her with that 3 count. Thanks for Dundee. Boy, look at this. Miss Texas sets up down. Karen gets the shoulder. 2. That's it. She got her. We got a hair saving, Lance. Holding up down Karen. Miss Texas, Bill Rush, Randy Hales is taking 4 of them to hold up down Karen and get that hammer. She's kicking and scrambling away.
Yes.
Stacey Carter from
I'm getting free looks.
Hair salon.
If you know what I mean.
Is trying to get the hair off.
Michael, is this the first time a lady ever lost her hair?
She's a professional at this, and she's going to get it, I promise you.
It was not the first time. Bill Dundee's wife lost her hair.
I mean, in a wrestling match.
The people are kind of like we are. They're starting to feel sorry for Karen up there. Oh, man. It's all gone, and Dundee throws it out, and look at that. at the middle rope, one, and Debbie Combs rolls out of that one. So everything that Miss Texas is shooting for in this title bout
Michael,
is
how
not
do you
working.
think this looks
Debbie
at the
Combs,
Louisville
get up
Gardens?
in the air
This
here. We're gonna
video is from
see an
Louisville.
airplane spin, yeah.
Now they're looking at
Airplane spin.
Now they had the house lights were up for this match, where normally you just had the ring light on in Louisville. But for this match, you see the house lights are up. These are two girls that could work like guys.
I was going to say, are these two tough girls or what?
I'm telling you, these two, I wouldn't fight either one of them. And Miss Texas was on the bus with a bunch of guys from Dallas on many a night, and she could hold her own, whether it was talking, drinking, or whatever they were doing. He was, I think, Jackie was fabulous. I think he's one of my most favorite women wrestlers, next to Debbie Combs and her mom, that I ever had an opportunity to work with. Indy Divine was good. She and Debbie formed the Hector tag team during that era as well.
From the Louisville Gardens.
Frank is asking how much is Karen paid for the hair match. I'm just guessing. Normally you go around $1,000. I would say probably $750. Frank says Miss Texas was a tough old bird, and absolutely she is. I love the Louisville Gardens. How much time did you spend at the Gardens, Michael?
Only when Randy West would have me come up occasionally. I didn't do a lot of matches. I did do, the one I remember the most was going up for the Lawler Gary Von Erich series, where we ran it in every town for the entire week, and I was at every town. And that I remember, that was a crazy time for the crowd there. Was just insane. But Louisville, that was the great thing about Louisville. When Louisville was down, Louisville still was up. Is that fair to say, Randy?
Yeah, more than fair.
Here comes Miss Texas. She sees her, grabs her, throws her into the ring. Debbie Combs grabs her. Miss Texas, they're working as a tag team.
Now, Randy, was Uptown Karen, was that the same Karen that did the angle with Scott Bowden?
Did several angles with different people, but yes, she eventually married as a shoot downtown Bruno, Michael.
Yeah,
right, that's what I was thinking.
Right, she married Bruno. I'd forgotten about that. Boy, old Bruno's made a great thing for himself. He is very well respected in Walls, Mississippi.
The weekend with more Memphis
Absolutely, as a city council member.
And I tell you what, in going around,
I'll be darned. I didn't know that.
Mississippi, yes.
We saw a lot of people from around the USWA territory that made trips to the city, and sometimes made trips to both cities in order to see it. It's a very special weekend.
Very loyal fans. Thanks very much. We hope everyone enjoyed it as much as we did. It was a great weekend.
And why don't we take a look at some of the exceptional highlights out of a very special weekend.
You couldn't have a Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame without the often imitated,
we played this last several weeks. I can watch it a million times.
The fabulous Jackie Fargo. Who else but the fabulous Jackie Fargo? Jackie, come on up here.
If I'm not mistaken, we're coming up on the anniversary of this gas.
I think so as well.
You know, I may have mentioned this before to you guys, but I remember back in, I guess it was the late 70s, early 80s, one of the TV stations in Memphis did not online, but a poll where you had to call in, I believe, to say who was the greatest athlete in Memphis history. And at that time, the #1 vote getter was Jackie Fargo by far. You know, there were no professional teams to speak of in Memphis at that time, so wrestling was the game in town for athletics then.
Absolutely, and Michael, to go to your comment, Jackie passed away on June the 24th of 2013 in North Carolina.
I'm very proud to have lived my life as a professional wrestler. Very lucky human being to have a wonderful family. Judy is with me tonight, my daughter Brandy and Charlotte, and my little Jennifer. I feel like I'm the luckiest man that ever lived to be a professional wrestler. And I owe it to you, to everyone in this arena, to my enemies, some of them, and friends. What a great, great honor to have been a professional wrestler. I'll never forget you because I'm not made that way. I'll always love you and thank you. And all my friends, I look around, I better get out of here. I'm fixing to cry. I love you very much, and God bless you. One last strut for the fans of Memphis, Tennessee.
Now, Brandon's bald now, Michael.
Damn good morning guy, too. Good morning.
Yes. This is the angle we shot at the Mid-South Coliseum. Now, the Hills, I don't know if you know this, Michael, if I told you this, we brought Brandon in 2 weeks after his high school graduation. So I was just doing with him stuff to get him noticed by the people and putting him in with Lawler, with Valiant, with everything. And so we'd have him just get his ass picked and do things with the stars. And Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert and a lot of the guys told Brandon I was killing him off. Here he is in 2025, the hottest media personality
and once again
in the state of Arkansas. I think I did right with him, don't you, Michael?
I think you were right on the money with him. And he could talk. He had the talk and he had the look. So. The only thing that ever held him back from being a big talent is,
leaning down with everything he can.
the only reason I'm not a professional baseball player.
I told you.
Physique.
Oh, no, I'm seeing what he's got
anyway,
over here.
Brandon had it all like that, though.
Out.
You should see him now.
He had it all plus the hair.
Yes.
As they're going to tar and feather Jimmy. What kind of lousy
Well, that's
deal
what I
is
told
this?
Brandon. I said, yes, they've got to you.
Dumping the feathers all
How
over
can you ask
Jimmy.
for any more? You
that's
tarred and
really
feathered
funny.
Jimmy Valiant, for Christ's sake.
And here comes the King, Jerry Lawler. Tommy Rich slips out of here. He picks up the pike. Dundee right behind him. Gilbert and Rich.
Now this, using the song Memories, this is at the Louisville Gardens box office. This was just a tremendous night as we're muting the audio for copyright issues. As you see the people, that's Jim White, that's Sarah Lee, that's Cora Combs, and again, we did the same sort of thing, Michael. We did the year before. This is Dean Hill talking to the fans.
Yeah, a lot of the O's, a lot of the.
I'm a Louisville police officer and bringing it.
Oh, wow. I like the Fab. I like the Fab, and of course I like Jim White here.
What about you, young man? Who's your favorite?
Jackie Fargo and everybody.
Well, ladies, are you getting all the autographs you're hoping to get?
No.
Who's your favorite wrestler?
Anything.
They all came up with different names.
Stan Lane, PG Fargo, Jackie Fargo.
Stan Lane.
Stan Lane. The Fabs are winning out here.
Great wrestling history in Louisville. It's not hard to come up. You have right here the first Staffel match, which turned out to be one of the great trendsetters. It was something else in Louisville Gardens. You had many other great matches, and you still got some to come right here tonight. I want to say thank you for helping us to make us see this a night to remember. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's
Joe Ledoux.
And this match was not good. Lawler did all he could do, but Joe.
I was going to say, Joe was never that great a worker.
Do what?
Joe was never that great a worker in the ring. I mean, it was a good interview because he was so intense, and he had a good look, but
rolling across the ring,
he couldn't do all that much in the ring.
Hammered Lawler, choked him with it. Now he's just got a chokehold.
People in Memphis remember Joe LeDuc for the Saturday morning he came on TV with his axe and then sliced his arm open on live TV. They had the blood. And I remember it must have been Jerry Jarrett made him cut away from the blood after like a second and a half or something. It wouldn't show the blood for very long on live TV.
I remember Joe LeDuc also wrestling with a tank top or a tank strap on, and this was not really a very nice thing for Joe LeDuc because he tank top sort of held him. The fact
Joe looked better in the late 70s.
When the King pulls that strap down,
I hadn't wrestled in years. I forgot. Bo asked me this, how did I get Joe LeDuc? I don't remember.
Being made.
This happened in 1995. I normally have good memories. I certainly don't of that, and so that was one of the feature matches, Joe LeDuc and Jerry Lawler at the Louisville Gardens in Louisville, Kentucky. So the Saturday night, we did the wrestling card at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis. We had the Best of Memphis Tag Team Tournament. Then the next night, we went to Louisville for a night to remember.
How to get one. Okay, we're going to take time out here, and we're going to be back to take a look at a match.
That was interesting, Randy. In fact, I guess Michael made this point. Louisville and Memphis were two cities in the same promotion. They had the same TV. They had more or less the same guys, but they were a different feel. Memphis did not, and Louisville did not feel like they were the same. In Memphis, Lawler was untouchable, but not so in Louisville, which I always thought was fascinating.
In more ways than one, for the past and for this match, which involved a lot of folks.
Yes, and some of them were what we call segue folks. They went from the past to the present, and we right now are going to take a look at some of the highlights. This was a dandy.
Precedes a big right hand with Rich turning Christopher around. Pounds him into the turnbuckle.
Hey, Adam, if we can, because Michael's going to have to go, let's do a last take. Michael St. John, if we can pause this video.
Yeah, I'm going to need to go pretty quick,
too. On the ropes, and referee Frank Morrell says no. This is too good of a show. I hate to leave. I apologize. This is fabulous. Unfortunately, I have a date with a morning show tomorrow, and it's live, local, and fun because my morning show is out for the next 3 days. But I got to tell you, this Randy, you started out the show in saying that you sucked last week, and I disagreed with you. If you did, which I don't think you did, you certainly made up for it tonight with one hell of a show. And Adam, good gosh, how could this all come together without you two? You talk about a all-American tag team. I think we're witnessing it right here behind the scenes with Adam, in front of the camera with Randy. Loved every moment of this, man. I'm like sitting there, I looked at the clock and went, heck, it's after 9. I got to go. Jeez, I hate to do this. I feel so bad. I really do.
Oh, I know. I'm revved up now. But I know exactly like Michael. I could get up in the morning.
That's fine. That is fine at all. I had warned you guys on the notes that this, because I knew this show was loaded. And by the way, I ain't going to suck 2 weeks in a row. That's just not going to happen, by God. And that's why I listen to the show. So real quick, last take for Rusty.
Oh, man, what a great combination of cards. So many terrific guys there. And I think I will reiterate what I said about Memphis versus Louisville. They're really the same promotion. The same bookers, the same wrestlers for the most part, even had the same TV show, but yet they felt different. It was not the same live performance every week, even though, they were one day after each other. Memphis was Monday, Louisville was Tuesday every week. Now, which I always thought was fascinating, how it could be so different. Lawler was untouchable in Memphis. He was the absolute star. But that was not so much the case in Louisville, which I didn't realize at the time, because I was only in Memphis. But I came to realize later on when I started looking at some of the tapes and so forth and promos from Louisville. So it really is fascinating, has been fascinating to me to see how different they were.
Last take, Michael St. John.
Well, first of all, I missed last week's show, and I apologize for missing it. And then I come back tonight, and my gosh, it just, you blew it out of the water, Randy. I mean, my last take is I'm so blessed, just so blessed to be a part of this. And for what Randy does, and I know the folks watching, if you don't have the appreciation that we have for Randy, you need to get it. You need to dig down deep and find it, because what was being put on this show is a work of love. Nobody's getting paid for this, folks. There's not a paywall or anything like that. But between Adam Dunn and Randy West, the brain trust of this thing, I'm just a mouth, and I probably have no business even being here. And I'm just so blessed to be with him. Doc, you've been a wonderful addition. I think it's been a fabulous addition. I miss Pat, because Pat gives us a whole different perspective, and I really miss Pat on this show. But my last take is just thankfulness. Thank God, and then thanks to these people, and thank you, Randy and Adam and Doc and Coach and Pat, for even letting me be a part of it. I am humbled. I am honored. And Randy, thanks for putting up with me. And I love you, brother. And hey, we got to take this thing to the next level. I'm all about taking this to the next level. So anytime you're ready to go, guys, it's time we jumped on a network and had the help of our listeners and our friends and the folks that watch this. We love you guys. And thank you so much. But again, to our crew, and especially you and Randy and Adam, thank you so much for even allowing me to be a part of it.
Thank you, Michael. Kiss Joshua good night for me, and we'll see you next Tuesday. By the way, I bet the reason I sucked last week, I was so depressed. It was all your fault. I was so depressed. You weren't here last week. I just wasn't myself. But by God, I think everybody agrees. I got it back. I'm fired up. I'm excited. And thank you, Michael. And as we're watching Brian Christopher win the Best of Louisville match and being attacked and busted open by that trophy in the Louisville Gardens. Thank you, Michael.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Good night. Rusty, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good night. Tell Beth I said hello. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful anniversary this weekend. And have fun in New Orleans.
Great. Thank you, Randy.
All right. We'll see you next time. As right now, we'll go back to the end of this terrible attack by Bill Jack Haynes, and now Bill Dundee out with Jerry Lawler helping Brian Christopher, and he's in bad shape there, as I believe.
You didn't leave too much doubt. When he's happy,
listen to Lance and Dave.
When he's unhappy, it's on his sleeve.
That's exactly right. And I tell you what, he is some kind of wrestler. There's absolutely no doubt about it. He is one of those people. We were talking about segues just a couple of minutes ago. He's one of those people, star of the present, star of the future.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a listen to Brian right now.
It's been a long, long night. We're in the Louisville Gardens dressing room. Congratulations for winning the Best of Louisville. But with Billy Jack Haynes, after that match, when they presented you with the trophy.
Here's a young RH with black hair.
Yeah, it was a bad situation. It was a night to remember right here in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's a night that I will remember for a long, long time. It was the Best of Louisville match. The Best of Louisville meant all the big names from the past, everybody that's wrestled there in Louisville came back for one big match to crown the Best of Louisville. And I was in that match, and I wanted to win that more than anything because I love Louisville, Kentucky, and I wanted to prove that I was the best that had wrestled there, and I won the match. And then they gave me the trophy. But then, that's when Billy Jack Haynes, the new boy in town, the big bag tough guy, he comes down there and he takes that trophy that I worked so hard to get. He takes that trophy by jumping me from behind and busting it up and then busting my head. Well, Billy Jack Haynes, if you're coming in here trying to intimidate somebody or get my attention, well, you've got it, my friend. You've got my attention, but I don't think you want it. Everybody there in Louisville knows what Brian Christopher is about. They know what Brian Christopher can do. And I don't think I would want to be in your shoes, Billy Jack Haynes. because now you got me mad. You got me mad with busting me open right there in front of thousands of people. But the way you did it from behind, well, now it's going to be me and you. Me and you one-on-one with me looking you in the face. You're not going to jump me from behind now. Billy Jack, I know you've heard it before. Paybacks are hell. But believe me, you'd rather be in hell than the payback you're going to receive for doing this to me.
From the back, we're coming out here with the king, now not only the king, but the world champion. In the air.
I tell you, Brother Dave, I could do this every week. Well, you couldn't do it every week because, I mean, history-making events like that just don't take place every single week.
No, but it sure is great to get them all together every now and then, take a look at them. Great for the fans. Speaking of the fans, thank you very much for your support for this past weekend, for the past years, and we hope in the years ahead.
Yeah, we really appreciate that, and I want to say a special hi to all of those folks that traveled around to see the best of the more Memphis memories in a night to remember in Louisville. Thank you for being dedicated, all of you out there. David, we got to get out of here. Son of a gun, we're going to be back with it next week. Be looking to having Corey back here next week, and until we see you at that time, for Dave Brown, Lance Russell saying bye-bye, everybody.
All right, Randy Hill's talking Memphis wrestling. We had Michael have to go. We had William had to go. We're going a little over time on this show, and we are going to also have Adam have to go, so I am going to get us off the air, but we're going to go back on April or on June the 11th of the year 1995, the night to remember in Louisville, Kentucky. This is the match that put, as Whoopi said, watching this show earlier today. Adam, thanks for being with us, and you got to go do what you got to do, and we'll watch the Rock and Roll Express PG-13 from the Louisville Gardens, and we'll let Corey, Dean, and Lance tell the story of this match, then I'll do a thing. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Bill. Hey, Rick, okay, we're up and running. USWA title. Can I tell you, right here is one match that is worth the price of admission for the entire evening.
A couple of people say goodbye to me. Well, we're not finished yet. We are.
Tag champions defending against the NWA World
Showing
Champions,
PG-13 Rock and Roll Express from Louisville, Kentucky on June the 11th on a Sunday night at the Louisville Gardens, Louisville, Kentucky.
Beautiful hip toss and an arm drag.
Michael had to go away. Dr. Robinson had to go away.
With all of their
Adam had to go away.
The hubcap, the hood talk, and all
This is
of that.
about a 20-minute match.
These guys can wrestle.
And we will
Obviously, I don't have to make any
certainly get us
about
off
the Rock
the
and
air.
Roll Express. They have established themselves by holding titles for most of the time they have been in professional wrestling. Some people say, well, they're in the twilight. Get out of here. These guys are still just kids. Over the top and down, Robert Gibson. Hammers Wolfie D hard on the mat. I think the one thing that is most often said by people who step in the ring and look at PG-13 is, well, these guys are too little. What are they doing in a men's sport? Dean Hill, the Louisville announcer, sitting here with us. Dean, you know, we were just commenting about most people when they see PG-13, they make the mistake of saying little team. Have you heard that? And then they get in there and find out about it.
Well, you hear it quite often, Lance. But a lot of people don't realize that size isn't exactly everything that makes a professional wrestler. It's knowing the moves. It's knowing the way the ring feels that in particular day. It's knowing the weaknesses of the opponents that you are in the squared circle with. PG-13 has had a lot of very large professional wrestlers that have come in here thinking that they're just going to run roughshod over them, and they've left with a great deal of respect for Wolfie D and the Iceman.
They just flat. Looking at JC over there, flexing those pecs. Now, this is not Mr. America exactly, but brother, I'll tell you, when it comes to heart, the big word that goes with PG-13 is determination. I've never seen a more determined pair. There is a little professional jealousy working both ways. Ricky Morton reached up, and he slapped the taste right out of J.C. Ice's mouth. And believe me, J.C. takes that from no man. But he's in there with a pretty good one, as Ricky, on a standing side headlock, just had the little edge on him and holding on to it tight. Corey, this is going to be a goodie for us over, buddy.
Oh, I promise you it will, my friend. This is going to be a humdinger. J.C. Ice, with a slap of his arm, puts the open hand on Ricky Morton, and Morton in the corner, trying to regroup, get himself together there with just over 4 minutes past in this sanctioned USWA Tag Team title bout. The challengers, the NWA World Tag Team Champions, Rick and Robert, the Rock and Roll Express, challenging J.C. Ice, Wolfie D, PG-13. J.C. backs out, reversal with Ricky Morton into the rope. Morton goes under. Robert Gibson jumps in with no tag. Robert with no tag in there, just leaped over the top rope.
Corey, you and I agree on 99%. I saw a tag from Ricky Morton. It's one of the slick things that they do. He made the tag before he made the whip. The referee evidently saw it because he let him in there. He did, in fact, tag Robert Gibson.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe I need some more glasses here. Because it was quick.
Oh, you bet.
These guys are so quick. They've been working together for so long, lads, that they've got such a great chemistry together. And it manifests right there. Great move from the Rock and Roll Express. I apologize.
What a match. The match that made PG-13. The match that started PG-13 and the Rock and Roll in the Smoky Mountain USWA feud. Glad PJ, you're still watching.
He caught Wolfie. Wolfie went right in.
You know, I was determined to get everything in tonight.
Just lifted up that knee and caught Wolfie D. Oh, man. Go over and they both nailed JC. Knocked him right off of the ring apron.
But Doc had to go. Pat couldn't be here, and Michael had to go. Adam had to go. So I'm going to get us off the air tonight. Been a fun talking Memphis wrestling on a Tuesday night.
I'm looking at the expression on Rick and Robert, and I got to tell you, these guys are the absolute consummate professionals. Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. But I'm looking at the expression on their face, and
now PJ, it was Corey Macklin, and the third member of the team was the ring announcer in Louisville. Player became the TV commentator for Ohio Valley Wrestling for Danny Davis and Jim Cornette. His name's Dean Hill.
Hammered him and then slammed his head into JC's knee. A double whip, and Ricky Morton doubled over. And he was buried into the mat. Oh! And Ricky kicks out, heads for the ring. Look at him go to
some of the long-time people that support this show are on. Did you guys notice there was about 3 or 4 different pricks that were writing smart-ass comments earlier in the show? I ended up blocking 2 or 3 of them. Did you guys see them or hear them? They were idiots. You didn't hear them, but I mean, you could read their comment.
I think as much as anything, Ricky Morton was a little embarrassed to be popped around by PG the way he did, and he wanted to turn it over to Robert, but the referee says, no way, get the legal man back in here, and here he comes.
Yeah, and one of my favorite memories of this match that I knew that people would explode. but standing in the back with Jerry Jarrett up in the bleachers, up in the risers, and he said, Eddie says that you got PG-13 on people on him. I said, yes. He said, you think you'll kill them off by working with other baby faces? And I said, no, I don't. He said, what's the finish? I said, watch. He said, you are putting the rock and roll over, aren't you? I said, watch. Wouldn't tell him, because I wanted him to be surprised.
And they just met him with a foot stuck out, buried him down on the mat. And then Wolfie D's dad has some wrestling experience.
Thomas is saying, hey, PJ, where's Brady?
To professional wrestling.
Talking Memphis wrestling, the Power Hour, and the Randy Hill Show.
That Wolfie D's dad is probably the larger of any of them. And
he is a big guy.
Yeah, he is a big fella.
It was a great night in Louisville, because I can remember riding in a van with Wolfie, Frank Morrell, myself, and Gypsy Joe. A lot of wacky-backy going on in that vehicle on the way home, I can guarantee you.
Rick Martin hammered him, took one, and exchanged with J.C. Ice.
Appreciate everybody staying up a little late. I know probably the only person that is early in the day is PJ.
And J.C. Ice down hard on his face.
Appreciate everybody watching. I hope you enjoyed Talking Memphis Wrestling tonight.
And it's turned out to be everything we thought it was going to. Ricky Morton going over to pick J.C. Ice up. We've passed the 10-minute mark. There's a whip into the rope. Sunset flip. But the referee over with Robert and Andrea, who is the newest addition, a lovely addition.
I'm assuming you're talking about no more, why we're not doing a Hall of Fame show. If that's your question, the reason we're not doing it is it's expensive to do those sort of shows, and it's very time consuming, and it's just not financially doable this year, and I just don't have the time. It's very time consuming. It takes me away from making a living.
Jumps inside the ring, that's a mistake. Referee distracted, watch what the rock and roll will do. Double suplex as they stand him on his head, drop him down on the mat, and Robert Gibson smiling about their activity.
Loving every bit of it. Robert Gibson, one half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions, backs up JC. Whips him in, ice, baby, goes under. Oh! Going for that flying press, and he missed everything. Robert stopped. And now look over on the other side of the ring, Ricky Morton holding up JC, while Andrea, the new addition to the Rock and Roll Express, puts her 2 cents in the thing.
That's more insult than injury. He's been hit a whole lot harder already tonight than Andrea will ever hit him.
Yeah, well, being slapped by that beautiful lady Andrea puts a lot of insult. You're exactly right, Lance. And Andrea, she is smiling and grinning. She's loving it. Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson.
Make sure everybody return next week, next Tuesday night. And we'll come up with some good stuff. I usually start working Thursday or Friday looking for the cards of the week and the pictures of the week. And we didn't get to the pictures of the week this week.
It can be a tough task. That's why they're doing all that they can do. They're pulling every kind of stunt that they can to be sure that they can get these 2 young punks, as they said in here earlier, to lose this battle.
Well, they, I can fully understand that when you've been the top dog for a long time.
Brandon asks, is there something you plan on doing again, though? Is it something you plan on doing again? Really enjoyed the last one. Yes, absolutely. I'm not, it's just such a big project. Everybody doesn't really have any idea of, it was probably a half a year in planning. And, you know, it was worthwhile, but a lot of work, and I think you can burn out your audience. The next one will probably take place, make it a little easier than doing it away in Jackson, Tennessee. That worked out, but the next time we do a Hall of Fame will probably be in Jonesboro, my hometown, where I have connections with media and with buildings and venues and that sort of thing. Probably do it in Jonesboro. So that's the plan.
Titles of the Rock and Roll are not at issue here. There's a whip. Look at JC go under. Yes! Now the last time they caught him with a foot before he could ever reach him.
Hey Brandon, where you live?
He was too quick, got there and put them both down on the mat. Great move, PG-13. Wolfie hanging out.
Watching the June 11th night to remember. Louisville, Kentucky, PG-13 Rock and Roll Express, and here we go. Hot tag, here comes what we do. So Brandon, where do you live?
To the other. Now we've got all four in. We don't want to see this match disintegrate into a street brawl. Look at Wolfie. 1, 2. And right at the last
This is
minute.
just a hell of a match. I've probably seen this a couple of hundred times, and it's just great. Brandon, I should know that. I think I know somebody that lives in Jonesboro. By the way, this Friday and Saturday night, I will be at my class of 1980 Jonesboro High School reunion. That'll be Friday and Saturday. So I'll be opening the roof, I'll be letting it rain, and I'm going to give them hell hurricane, because all the hurricanes can give it hell. Give them hell and open the roof, but nobody can open the roof and give them hell like an old hurricane. This great sequences. Brandon, did I bring it to the tobacco store?
About to say 3 because I thought he had him. What a great, great bout. A night to remember. Louisville Guards in Louisville, Kentucky. Sunset flip. He's got him over there, Bill. Referee Bill Rice. That gets a 2. Rice has got
Exciting match, without a doubt.
Very, very hard job. Look at that. That Andrea dumped a whole handful of powder right in the eyes of Whoopi D. Morton covers 2. And referee Bill Rice stops the count. He's asking Ricky Morton, hey, what happened? What's that stuff in Whoopi's eyes? Whoopi rolls him up. He's got him hooked. 1, 2, 3. He had a 3 count. Gibson goes over.
Not a very good looking DDT.
He's Whoopi. What a great, great bout. Action continues. JC comes from behind. Now's Morton with a hubcap. He got him. 1, 2, 3, 16, 33 lands. PG-13 retains the USWA Tag Team title in 16 minutes, 33 seconds. PG-13 retain the USWA Tag Team title. How sweet it is. Andrea just walks over. She starts slapping JC eyes. What is she doing, Lance? Rock and Roll came up from behind and nailed him as
This was the money. Had the good match. Sold the tickets. Sold the show. We do the angle, and this gave us 4 months.
And then Rock and Roll came
The
up
best
behind him, nailed him through JC out.
For the Smoky Mountain USWA and Louisville and Memphis both than the Tennessee territory had in over 5 years.
Of the match, the winners of the match
PG-13. Now we go the heat route. I decided to go the heat route after the match later in the night because I thought it was just the right thing to do. I remember meeting you, Thomas. And Brandon, I remember going to your shop, dropping the book. I'm glad that employee there didn't steal the book. It's such in high demand. I'm surprised they didn't take it for themselves.
The Rock and Roll Express pounding on. Hey, what is this?
I'm out and about on Parker Road all the time. As a matter of fact, today, Parker Road at Candelas at about 4 o'clock this afternoon. I live off a stadium.
What is it? Boy. Yeah, boy.
At DLP.
Now they
Hopkins,
ended up winning
the former Stadium Place apartment.
Fair and square they did.
Now
and
DLP.
And she has the spray paint that Brandon Baxter brought out here with a brand new hubcap trying to entice. I just don't understand what Ricky Martin,
Well, we have some comments. When it all